All right, we are live. Welcome. This is Orion Rising. I am your host, Leonard O'Neill. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, or good morrow, depending on where in the world you are tuning into the show. Okay, show this out, show this out, show this out. We are live from Australia. I am in New South Wales, Australia, in a city called Woy Woy. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Show this out, show this out, show this out. As you can see on the screen there, for those of you listening on the MP3 broadcast, I am no longer broadcasting live from the United States of America because I am now living in Australia. And I am live from Australia. And I'm putting up a flag from Australia because I am proud to be in Australia. And I'm happy to be here. We went off the air for about a month. And now we're settled in over here in Woy Woy, with a city called Woy Woy in New South Wales, Australia, east coast of Australia, about 65 miles north of Sydney. Loving this. Loving it. Look at this. Land down under, people. Okay. Let me pull down that flag off of there and put up the flag for Hermes, because we're back to the Corpus Hermeticum. Let me pull that down too so you guys can see my ugly mug there. There I am, coming to you live. Let me put you up in full screen. There I am. For those of you around the world listening on MP3 broadcast, you can't see my ugly mug. Those of you who are seeing me on the MP4 broadcast, you guys can see my ugly mug sitting here in New South Wales, Australia. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Okay, so it's 3 p.m. on the west coast of the United States of America. That's GMT -7. It is 8 a.m. in New South Wales, Australia, where I'm coming to you live from. Very proud to say that. Okay, so Corpus Hermeticum. I apologize for the long time off the air. In the last month, month and a half, my wife's mother died and my mother died. So we moved. So here we are in New South Wales, and we're settled in fine, and we put both of our mothers to rest, and now we're back on air. Brooke is in the other room, running around doing her thing. She's got some work to do, so she's on her computer. I don't know if she's on right now. She might be. I'm not looking at the comment sections. Oh, there we are. Yeah, Brooke is there. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Share this out. Share this out. Tag everybody. Get everybody in here. I've been gone for a month. That's at least a month. I think it was exactly a month now since I was live. So we're back. Like I said. Had deaths in the family. Both my wife's mother and my mother both died within 3 weeks of one another. So we just got them settled and put into their final resting place, moved into our new place, and here we are back live. So Corpus Hermeticum, we're going to go straight back into that. Let me pull that up on the screen here so you can see that. Put that up on the screen. We're at the 3-hour mark. I believe we're on chapter 17. Don't quote me. We'll find out when the page turns here in a second. Right. So I'm just going to get right back into it and get straight into the Corpus Hermeticum. You guys can read in the description what we're talking about. It has to do with information about most of this information that we're going to be talking about and have been discussing for a very long time is information that the powers that should not be around the world. I guess I should put myself back up on the screen here so you can see me. Powers that should not be around the world are trying to keep this information from you from around the world in all of the Bibles. They're editing things and have been for at least 1,600 years, quite possibly more than that. On this planet, trying to keep this information away from you. And there's been people throughout time and history who have been teaching you the knowledge that you need to know about, including Jesus, including Muhammad, Moses even. So we're talking 4,000 or 5,000 years ago. Hermes Trismegistus with the Corpus Hermeticum, Thoth the Atlantean. Before that, some people say that book isn't even true, but I can tell you we're going to be covering that next when we get done with this endeavor of the Corpus Hermeticum. We will be doing the Emerald Tablets of Thoth next, and I can tell you that if that was in fact not something that was written by, say, a deity named Thoth, then it was written by somebody who was far more wise than anyone else on the earth at the time. And whoever that person was who was writing, maybe from a perspective of trying to pretend they were somebody that they were not, were more enlightened than anyone in a very, very long time on this earth. And we'll get into that when I get into the Thoth the Atlantean. Fiona, welcome. If you guys are out there in the world and you're listening in on an MP4 broadcast somewhere on Instagram, YouTube, or Facebook, please say hello in the chat, because those chats do come into, I know I'm pointing over here because I'm on a monitor that is where this camera is, but when I point to this monitor, you're actually seeing from the other perspective. So it looks further away on the thing here because I have two monitors up these days. Almost had three. I have two monitors up. Okay, so say hello in the chat. Otherwise, I just see numbers. For those of you listening around the world on the MP3 broadcast, I apologize for that hiatus of being off the air. That could not be helped. It was me moving 7,500 miles away, almost 7,500 miles away. Like I said, death in the family. Brooke's mom passed and my mother passed within 3 weeks of one another, within a month of each other. So we had to take care of that. All right. I love you guys. Let's get started. Let me get me off the screen here, and we'll go into full screen over here for the Corpus Hermeticum. I'm going to go ahead and do a sound check. Somebody let me know if you guys can hear it okay, and then we'll get right into it. So let me go over here to this page, and we'll go ahead and hit play and do a sound check so you guys make sure that you can hear it okay.
17. If you think about it, O king, incorporeals also exist among the corporeals. What kind? Asked the king. Bodies that appear to be in mirrors seem incorporeal to you, do they not? Yes, Tat, they do. Your understanding is godlike, said the king. But there are also other incorporeals. Doesn't it seem to you, for example, that there are forms that appear in body, even though they are incorporeal, in the bodies not only of ensouled beings, but of the soulless also? You put it well, Tat.
Thank you, Fiona. I was waiting for somebody to tell me you guys can hear it okay. That's good. Thank you very much. Let's go ahead and continue. So it is chapter 17 of the Corpus Hermeticum. Let's continue.
Thus there are reflections of the incorporeals in corporeals, and of corporeals in incorporeals. From the sensible to the intelligible cosmos, that is, and from the intelligible to the sensible. Therefore, my king, adore the statues, because they too possess forms from the intelligible cosmos. Rising, the king then said, It is time that I attend to my guests, O prophet. Tomorrow we shall theologize further. 18. On the soul hindered by the body's affections. If someone promises to bring harmony out of a piece of music played on many instruments, his effort will be laughable if during the performance discord among the instruments hinders his zeal. Since weak instruments are altogether unequal to the task, inevitably the spectators will jeer at the musician. Indeed, while this well-meaning person gives tirelessly of his art, the hearer finds fault with the weakness of the instruments. He who is truly a musician by nature, not only producing harmony in song, but also providing the rhythm of the music appropriate to each instrument, this tireless musician is God, for it does not befit God to tire. If ever a performer wanted to excel in a musical contest, entering just after the trumpeters had likewise shown their skill, after the flautists had produced sweet music on their melodious instruments, after others had finished the singing of the song with reed pipe and plectrum, no one would blame the musician's inspiration if his instrument failed under the strain, nor would they blame the Almighty, to whom they would render due honor while finding fault with the defective instrument, because, in fact, it created a hindrance to greater beauty by hindering the musician's rapport with the music and robbing the audience of sweet song.
If you're hearing these words,
and a commercial,
it's not a coincidence.
which is
Something powerful is moving in the invisible.
With us, it is the same. Let no spectator irreverently find fault with our kind for weakness that belongs to the body. Let it be known, however, that God is a tireless inspiration, who always and in the same way possesses the skill appropriate to him, whose blessings are uninterrupted, who continually enjoys the same kind attentions. If even the craftsman Phidias used material that did not yield to his striving for consummate diversity, and our musician could only make the best of his ability, let us not put the blame on him, but find fault with the weak string that slackened the tension, lowered the tone, and muffled the rhythm of the lovely music. But no one ever blames the musician for an accident that happened to his instrument. And the more they reproach the instrument, the more they extol the musician when he strikes the string and hits the right tone. So the audience feels even friendlier to the musician and finds nothing to blame him for after all. So it is with you also, most honored ones. You, in turn, should tune the inward lyre and adjust it to the divine musician. But I see it now. Some performer readies himself for a composition of great genius, and, even without playing his lyre, he somehow uses himself as an instrument and finds some secret way to tune his string and heal it, stunning his audience by turning something deficient into something magnificent.
See, here the metaphor that we're talking about here is something that we should really pay attention to. And I should point out, because you being the musician, and your body, this place, being the metaphoric instrument, you need to tune your instrument to that angelic sound, that like they say, that harmonic resonance. Here, they always say to tune your instruments to C, and C is not where you should be tuning your instruments to, even though they try to tell you that. If you look that up, science says that the octave of C is actually the devil's octave. So they've actually changed all instruments around the world and said that C is the perfect one, when in fact it's not. A G flat, G major, G minor, and G flat are actually more of the ohm resonance than C is. If you play a C and you play the ohm, when you hit that resonance, that's actually a G. It's not a C. So it's actually an octave or a half octave or a third octave lower than the C. C is a higher octave. That's not the perfect octave. They got everybody tuning everything to C because it's keeping all the harmonic resonance, the Schumann resonance, the resonance of the human race, on the wrong tuning. So it isn't your fault. Again, this is the contention here. It isn't your fault, the instrument's fault, because the instrument is out of tune. But it's also not the player's fault that the instrument is malfunctioning. However, if you tune your instrument to the proper tuning, the proper resonance, then even if something in the actual device is off, as long as you're still resonating this information, or resonating the message of God, as it were, in this, then the audience is still going to say and listen and see that it's beautiful, that what you're doing is not something that is your fault. Sorry, I have a cat in here that is deciding to play with the lamp over here on the side over here. I don't know what he's doing, but he's bored, I think, and he's in here playing with stuff. He's about to knock the lamp over here. So the metaphor here is tune your instrument properly, figure out the proper tuning, and then keep your message on point. And that's what the conversation here is about. And Don't hold yourself responsible and say, well, I'm slightly out of tune, or my instrument's out of tune, and therefore it's my fault, and then feel bad about it because you're trying to play the music. And if your instrument isn't working properly, it's not really your fault. You have to try and tune it as best you can and continue on, because we're fallible. We're not infallible, because we're not, in fact, the creator. And that's the message that we're getting here. Let me go back over here in full screen and continue.
They say that a certain player on the cithara, dear to the patron god of music making, once entered a contest of singing to the cithara. But when a string broke, he was hindered in his exertions until his dearness to the Mighty One restored the string for him and granted him the grace of fame. In place of the string, a providence of the Mighty One caused a cicada to light upon the cithara and restore the song by keeping the space where the string had been. Thus, the cithara player won a victor's reputation.
That's funny. Yeah, he was over there. Now he's moved, but he was over there, Fiona, and he was kicking at the lamp, and then now he's moved over to the other side. I'll continue here.
When his string was mended and his grief came to an end. Somehow I feel the same thing happening to me as well. Most honored sirs, just recently it was as if I confessed my weakness and lay sick for a little while. Yet now, by the power of the Mighty One, as it were, my song about the king has been restored, and I made music. Accordingly, the aim of the assistants will be the renown of kings, and from their trophies arises the zeal of my discourse. Come then, let us proceed, for this is the musician's desire. Come, make haste, this is the musician's will. This is why he tuned his lyre. His song will be sweeter and his playing more pleasant, as instructions require greater music.
Now, know that the word lyre here being used is not a person that is a lyre. It's actually an instrument. You have to remember that this was written by Hermes, so we're talking 4,000 years ago, maybe 5,000 years ago. So it's actually an instrument, a musician in a musical instrument, not a person telling a lie that was being referred to here. And a commercial.
Hi, this is Marissa Peer, and I'm going to tell you a little.
Therefore, since he has tuned his lyre specially for kings, since it has a panegyric tone, since its aim is to commend royalty, he raises his voice first to the supreme king of all, the good God, and after he has opened his song on high, in its second section, he descends to those who bear the scepter in God's image. Kings themselves find it pleasing that the song moves down step by step from on high, and that it comes from the very place where victory was conferred on them, victory from which, in their turn, our hopes also derive. So then, let the musician approach the Supreme King, the God of all. He is ever immortal, eternal in having dominion from eternity, first in glorious victory, source of all victories for those who have received victory in due course. Our discourse hastens to descend to such commendation, to commend kings who are princes of the common security and peace. Authority from God Almighty long since rose to a height in them. Victory was conferred on them from the right hand of God. Prizes were prepared for them even before they performed heroic deeds in battle. Trophies were set up for them before they engaged the enemy. It was ordained for them not only to be kings, but also to be the best. And even before an army moves, they panic the barbarian.
See, now this is the metaphors. You would not think, right? Yeah, this is, there we go. You would not think that somebody, today would speak this way. The metaphors that are being used then was definitely, you have to remember that Hermes Trismegistus was a Greek. The Greek way of life was more militant. The time period was more militant. So the references, if you read the Bible, I was just reading First Thessalonians 5. Even then, the references to speaking about the body and protecting the body was armor, and metal armor and a helmet. So the references were different than today. We wouldn't use those exact same references today. We should probably, because they are transcendent, right? So yeah, Melissa said, so the tunes brought the victory. The tuning, right? This was over 1,000 years ago, right? It was at least a couple thousand years ago, right? So yeah, so you have to realize that the verbiage is different than we would use today, but the metaphors are the same. That the tuning, the music, if you're speaking the proper information, if you're talking from enlightenment, true enlightenment. Let me put myself back up on screen so you can see me. If you're talking from true enlightenment, because true enlightenment is universal. It's not something that you learn. You learn information, and information causes you to become enlightened. And when you become enlightened, truly, when you choose a path, either being in service to others or in service to self, you unlock a knowledge on either one of those two paths that will give you that package. If you're self-serving and you're evil, you'll be self-serving, and you'll go down that path, and that'll unlock a certain knowledge in the universe and how things work. And if you're in service to others and you go down that path and you're a good person, then you unlock knowledge there. And that tuning then tunes you to the information of that package, either self-serving on one hand or in service to others in the other hand. Whether you want to believe that stuff or not is the way that it works. So the knowledge that you gain in service to others is the same knowledge that everyone has access to around the world, around the entire universe. So that information, if you're tuning in to that information will give you, like the metaphor here with the music giving you the victory, because the message that you will be giving to the people, performing in this metaphor as a musician playing a tune. The tune you will be playing will be a tune that is from the universe itself, and then you playing that tune as the musician, you will know that song, you will know that information, and you then can effectively perform that and give that message to the people out there. So you're either going to be in service to self, or you're going to be in service to others in your life. And people choose that, whether they want to pretend it or not. People say, I'm neutral. I haven't chosen that. I walk. Those people are lying. Those people are lying. They know they're lying, but they want you to believe that they're not evil, because they don't want you to think they are evil, because then they would get over on you by saying, well, I'm not actually evil. I'm right down the middle. I'm gray. I'm nothing. I'm completely neutral. Anybody who tells you that is not really neutral. They're trying to portray that they are, and it's almost impossible to stay neutral on Earth in 3D. And a 3D person has a hard time doing that, right? So, Melissa says you can't copy them. Each person resonance is different, right? So each harmonic resonance is individual to each one of us because of who we are. The message that we will be giving will be the message as you get higher up in your vibration, and the more you unlock that, the message will be sound. The difference will be the way that you, now as the instrument, when you're tuning, the message will be yours because it's your resonance, your sound. So like Melissa was saying, we're all tuned individually. Like my message to the world is the same message that other people out there are giving, but I'm resonating slightly different because it's the way I'm telling the message to the world, like Hermes, for instance, in this Corpus Hermeticum. And I've gone down like the Law of One from Ra and their version of the same message coming at you through their tuning. So each one of us individually has that of our own personal sound, our own personal voice, and we're giving the same message. And you'll find that the higher up a being is in each, whether they're in service to self or in service to others, that the message, the underlying message, the background message is the same on one extreme or the other, being evil or not, being good. That the message is there, and it's a matter of how that tuning from that instrument. So we become the instrument in the tuning, but the message keeps going, and the message can't be stifled on either side, because that's the way it works with the balance of everything. So what you're hearing here is that metaphor being put down to you, that parable as an instrument being tuned. And then if you're tuned properly, then it's like the art of war, which I was quoting there, that the battle is over before it begins, because if you're giving the righteous message and you're on point, that message will carry you through. And that message is coming from the universe. Let's continue here. Let me go back over here and go in full screen, and we'll continue here.
On praise for the Almighty and a royal panegyric. My discourse hastens on to make an ending suited to its beginning, to conclude by praising the Almighty.
Well, see, now Melissa said my message keeps getting thwarted by fear for some reason. Well, see, now that's where he's warning against that here when he says, fear not, just a few minutes ago, fear not that, and have that confidence. And this is where we tell people, speak your truth, even if your hands are shaking or even if your voice shakes. The fear is internal, it's the ego. So what you need to do is ignore that fear and push through that fear and say, I am not afraid because I am not alone. And those are the things that we need to learn. I am not afraid because I am not alone. And what I have to say counts. What I have to say matters. What I think matters. So the fear is something that we have to get over. It's the ego, the last part of surrendering to the universe and realizing that our information is just as valid. It's not the machine or the instrument. And this is what that Hermes was talking about. It's not my fault as the player. I'm trying to get the message across, and what's happening is my instrument is slightly out of tune. So you can either say it's my fault and worry about the instrument, or you can make do with what you have and then tune the instrument when you have time. And that is exactly the message that was being portrayed. If you go back and listen for the last 10 minutes, you'll see, or maybe 15 minutes, you'll see that the message is that the person who is the player of the instrument, the soul behind this instrument, is the body. If you believe in your message and you want to get that message through, and you realize that your instrument, your body, isn't tuned properly, and so you're having issues of being slightly off key or missing a note, that if you continue, the message itself is more important than the tuning. And that's like when people are saying something and they use the wrong vernacular, they use the wrong punctuation in either writing something or speaking, and then you have people that will attack that instead of thinking about the message and saying, well, the message was sound. They'll say, I can't believe that you even said those words, because in the correct way of speaking in modern English, you shouldn't have used those words, and you're so uneducated and you're useless. The same thing when people are trying to type something in a chat or something and they misspell something and someone comes after, I can't even believe that you're going to think that I could take you seriously when you misspelled that word. That's somebody who is attacking the instrument, not the message, and they're ignoring the message, and that's why they're attacking the instrument. It's the same thing when you see, I talk about this all the time with theologians around the world. Theologians around the world, they believe that theology is the comparison of religion, and it's not. It's the study of spirituality. and even if you want to say it's the study of religion, then why is it that all theologians, for some reason, miss the message? And I can't say all of them. I say all, and that's a broad statement that I shouldn't say. Why is it that most theological discussions revolve around a religion and the semantical parts of religion themselves and not the message? Because that's what they're doing. They do that with everything, where they look at these, the what is the creation story of the Hebrew religion? What is the creation story of the Christian religion? And then where does that come from? And then they look at that and say, well, it comes from the Hebrew. Where does the Hebrew come from? Well, that was borrowed from the Mesopotamian scroll. All of that right there is already missing the message completely. Now what they're doing is they're focusing on a piece of paper, a scroll. They're focusing on who, the personages, when, where on the planet, when on the planet, and who wrote or had that scroll. Then they say, well, there's got to be one that's older, and that one seems like it's based on this one. Now, again, they're distracted and they're going to the scroll. Who wrote it? When was it written? Where did it exist? Where did it come from? They're missing what is it that is the content? What is the message? And this is what they do, and it's driven me crazy my entire life. What is it? Why is it that they're running around knocking down forests looking for the certain tree? There's a tree over there. We can't find the forest through the trees. So they're knocking down all the trees instead of realizing the message is the trees. So theologians don't talk about the message. They don't say, they focus on the semantical portions of it, and they focus on the actual scroll that was written by someone else. Well, historically, the Hebrew Bible seems to have borrowed most of their information from this scroll. What's the information? What is it that is being told here? Jesus tried to tell them that. Muhammad tried to tell them that. Even Moses tried to tell them that. Other people in other religions around all of the Marduk, all of that, they all were trying to get a certain message across. Lao Tzu with the Tao Te Ching, the Buddha, there was a message, and then that message was turned into a religion, and then everybody discusses where he got his ideas from, where she got her ideas from. And then they go to the idea again, and they run away, and they don't focus on what was the message that everyone was teaching. Why is it that they do that? Because they're paid to do that. They don't want you, they want you to go after the messenger, not the message. Do you see? So they're getting you focused on the instrument itself and how it's out of tune, or that's not a Stradivarius, and that the Stradivarius is older and it was made in this other place. And then there was, well, maybe that came from a lute, and maybe originally that was written on a lute. And instead of going, what is the harmonic resonance? What is the song? They don't care about that. They're saying that's the artist who's playing it, or that's the instrument that is being played. And instead of what is the actual message. And this is what this whole metaphor is here, talking about the instrument, saying that even if the instrument's out of tune, it's the person who is telling you the story, playing the instrument. And this is what they're telling you, what is the message that minstrel is trying to convey to you, not what is the sound of the instrument coming through, whether it's perfect or if he missed a note. What is the story being told is what's going on, right? So yeah, Brooke was saying, I know I can hear him. The cat, I don't know if you guys can hear the cat on the camera, but he was at the door over here. Trying to get back in. He was meowing at the door, and Brooke just put that on the thing, right? Brooke just put that on there. He was crying at the door to get back in the room. She came in earlier, by the way, when you guys, after I was talking about him being in here, Brooke came in and snatched him up and stole him. Now he was just at the door again, and he was over there. His name's Lucci, by the way. His name is Luciano. And he was at the door, and I could hear him scratching at the door and meowing, trying to get back in because he wanted to be in here. And so she just, in case you heard that, that's what was going on. Peter, I didn't see Peter she said, hi, Peter. Peter, welcome, Peter. If you hopped into the live somewhere, Brooke is saying hi to you as well. So let me get back over here. Let's go back to full screen here. So the metaphor there and the message getting back to Melissa's statement, is that even if your hands are shaking, speak your truth. Don't be afraid that you're having a hard time articulating a message to the world if you don't have the words properly at the moment. Find them, take your time, and don't be afraid that you think that maybe I don't have all of the information. Say what you can and what you can interpret, and then know and even tell people. I do the same thing. What I'm saying to you is not coming from the perspective of, say, Jesus or Lao Tzu. It's coming from the perspective of me, of Leonard. And that doesn't mean that I'm not talking. There you are. Hi, Peter. So that doesn't mean that I'm not delivering the proper message. It's the delivery is coming from the tuning that I have of this vessel, of this instrument. And that's individual to each one of us. And that is the purpose of this entire endeavor. Paulie, welcome. That is the purpose of this entire endeavor, is for each one of us to have, let me go back up in full screen here for a second, for each one of us to have our own experience. That's what this is about. This is about the creator of the universe living vicariously through all of us, because we all have our own individual take on this perfect thing that the creator created, this entire multiverse that was created by the creator of the universe. Whether you're religious or not, whether you're spiritual or not, something is going on here, and this was created somehow by happenstance, by design, and we're in it. So while we're in it, we should at the very least experience it in our own unique way. If we then choose to leave a part of our experience for others to experience, then there's no reason for us not to do that, because it's encouraged, right? So it's discouraged by people who don't want change. It's discouraged by people who control and want to control the masses, because they want themselves to be the end all and be all of the universe, that you should be listening to what they tell you to do, because they're about money, power, fame, glory, and their legacy for their family to stay in charge. Period. End of discussion. So they don't want you thinking for yourself. They don't want you tuning your own instrument. They don't want you experiencing your own experience. They don't want you sharing that experience with the world unless it makes them money. Okay, so if it makes them money in some way, they'll encourage you to do it, and they'll reward you for doing it so that they make money off of it. That's what their whole entire endeavor revolves around: this place, this reality, and their legacy, their money. So if you want to leave something behind, you can and you should, because that's going to help better this place in the world. So no matter what you do in life, you should think about that. And if you don't care about that stuff, you don't have to either. I tell people that, they're like, what should I do in life? Whatever you feel like doing, even if it's nothing. Do what you feel like you need to be doing at that moment, always. And don't let anybody tell you that you should be doing something else, and that you should be doing what you want to do, and you should do it as often as you can. That's what we tell people: find your bliss. How do you find your bliss? Well, first you need to survive here. So you're going to have to get some sort of way of having money coming in so that you can have a place to live. You have to do those things, but that doesn't have to become you. You're not what you do for a living. You're who you are. So if you have to do something for a living, then you do that thing for the living so that you can live here, because you have to do those things. But that's not who you are. Don't let your job define you. It's not who you are. You define who you are, whether they like it or not, because they'll have you believe that you need to sell your soul to your job so they can burn you out, use you up, and then cast you aside when you're done. And that's what they'll do. All right, let's continue here. Let me go back in full screen over here for this, and we'll continue. So the metaphor that's being used here is basically telling you, that God has given you the tune. Play it to the best of your ability, and tune yourself as you go, and perfect your skill and hone your skill of playing that tune that God gave you to play. And don't be bothered by people saying that you're not perfect, because no one's perfect besides the creator of the universe. And even the creator of the universe believes that they're not perfect. Because if they believed they were perfect, we wouldn't be doing any of this because there would be no need for any of these experiences. Remember that.
And then also to praise kings who are most divine, the arbiters of our peace. Just as we began with the Almighty and the power above, so shall we make our ending revert to the beginning and refer again to the Almighty itself. The sun, nourisher of all that grows, harvests the first pick of the crops as it first rises, using its rays like great hands to gather in the crops, and the rays that are its hands gather in the most ambrosial effluences of the plants. In just this way, since we have taken our beginning from the Almighty, and have received the effluence of his wisdom, and have used it up in growing the supercelestial plants that are our souls.
Right, I agree. Well, welcome, Joanne. I see Fiona said welcome, but Fiona also said nothing is perfect in this world, and if they think that they're perfect, then they're living in glass houses. They're lying to themselves. Agreed, 100%. Because nobody's perfect, nothing is perfect. So the message here is in this verse, in this chapter, is play the tune that you have and give the message and resonate with, if you're resonating with the universe, if you're resonating with the creator of the universe, resonate as best you can, and then tune yourself as you go and fix your instrument. That would be your body, you. Fix your instrument as you go and adjust to that, but play that music. Live your life. Be who your best self. Be who you should be. Be yourself no matter what. And then deliver your message, whatever that message is, to yourself, to the universe, to people around you. Be who you want to be. That's what this message is. Even though it's using a minstrel, who might be playing it, because at the time it would have been, kind of like that a couple thousand years ago, 1,000 years ago, 1,500 years ago, that would have been the thing, would have been musicians, and actors on stage. So using the minstrel or the orchestra, as it were, you're the orchestra. Play it, play your tune, play your best tune. And that's what this message is. Let's continue here. Let me go back over here. We'll continue. So anybody, like Fiona was saying, anybody that would be trying to say they're perfect, they're obviously lying to themselves, because nobody's perfect, right? Okay, let's continue.
We must go back again and exercise the praise from which he will water every shoot that we plant. To God, then, who is entirely undefiled, who is Father of our souls, it is fitting that praise should rise up from 10,000 mouths and voices, even if one can say nothing worthy of him, because our speech is no match for him. The newborn cannot sing a hymn worthy of their father, yet if they render...
Right, if Fiona says, wow, how funny that you're talking about the instrument in the body. And I was just talking to my adults about their vessel last week, and that if you're sick, how they meant to be there for somebody else when you're sick. Keep your vessel well, right? I mean, the truth is that, yeah, I mean, it's weird how when I was doing the law of one, the same thing would come about, where I would start talking about things each week, and people would see, isn't that weird how I was just this week, the other day, today, talking about or living through an experience exactly like you're talking about now, and bringing up how apropos is that this message that is being played here from the Corpus Hermeticum resonates in that way with something that you just went through and experienced. This is the way the universe works. It is weird. It is kind of cool. And sometimes scary that something like this would come up and you're like, wow, I just kind of lived through that and was just explaining something almost identical to someone that you just talked about. And I'm getting that from a book that was written, almost 2,000 years ago. And the message happens to be coinciding with today on this day and this week. Right. And it's weird that came up. Right. So who knows? And I do want to talk about that. In fact, why don't we do that while I'm sitting here? Let's talk about today, being the 23rd of August is the new moon. for this month, and it's an extra new moon, which is called a black moon, which only occurs once every few years. I think the next one that's going to occur is in 2028 or something like that. And the last one was in 2022 or something like that. So it's every now and then we get an extra full moon, because there's 13 months full moons in the year. And sometimes we don't get the extra new moon or the extra full moon. And so they happen at alternating times every other year. So this year, this new moon is the black moon, which is rare, and it doesn't happen very often. And Peter Coyle, who's in the audience right now, mentioned this earlier in the month of August with the last full moon and this cycle of the moon cycle. And today is, unless you're like in California, because then it's still Friday. It's still the 22nd. But if you're anywhere else on the planet from GMT, from Greenwich Mean in England or over, it should be midnight by now or close to it. Otherwise, for the rest of us on the eastern side of the planet, we're already into the actual apex of the new moon. So the new moon, being the dark moon, is this time is a black moon. And this is one of those rare occasions where you have it coinciding with Virgo, which I'm a Virgo. And today is actually the beginning of the Virgo Christ oil within the body. The oil is now returned and is sitting dormant in the pineal gland, which is right about there and there. It's actually just a little bit lower down, right about there. That's actually where it is in the skull. Just above the base of the brain, right through the claustrum. It's sitting dormant now, waiting to go through that chimney like Santa Claus and become the light of the world. So for the next 2.5 days from today, from this morning, if you're a Virgo, no eating junk food, no drinking alcohol, no having sex for 2.5 days. And that oil, that's called eating of the tree of life. If you don't eat of the tree of life in this 2.5 day time period, this is the crucifixion of the Christ oil, when Jesus was crucified and was dead for 2.5 days. For 3 days, on the third day he rose. This is that metaphoric Christ oil within that happens to everybody, and it happens to be Virgo's time. So if you're a Virgo around the world and you're hearing my voice, don't do any of that stuff for the next 3 days, and you'll get an illumination where your own body will, the oil in your body, the milk and honey is joined together, and it will then strike. And when it resurrects, it mixes together, and then it just creates this euphoric effect with a lot of DMT, and it illuminates all of your brain cells, actually raises your vibration to a higher degree. Or you spend that oil and spend it by eating of the tree of life in this 2.5 days, and that's when you get the coal-like substance that it turns into in your body, and it actually lowers your temperature, your resonance in your brain. So if you're third dimensional, self-serving in this time, you will make sure that you do debauchery. You will make sure that you eat crap food and have sex and drink alcohol, because then you get the coal-like substance. That's like Santa Claus leaving you a piece of coal instead of a present. That's what that story is about, by the way. And I cover that in my book, which we'll do a commercial for. So let me do that, and you can see that if you're seeing on the MP4 broadcast, you can see the name of my book on the screen right here. So why don't we go and do that right now and do a commercial? Let me find where that is here. Here we go. Let's do a commercial for my book, because you got to pay the bills, right? And then we'll talk about that, because if you're in Australia, you guys probably saw that I had a post. So let's do the commercial first, and then we'll talk about that, and then we'll get back into talking about the new moon.
What is the reality about reality? Returning to the Old Ways. It is a comprehensive book about what is really going on here on this planet. It talks about the true spirituality that the controllers who think they own this planet have been keeping from you for thousands of years. It explains to you the knowledge that you gain from the universe itself when you live the way the prophets of the world throughout time told us how to live. Eat right, meditate, take care of yourself, treat others right. All the things they originally told us to do, but the controllers have removed from right in front of our eyes. The way to ascend to heaven. The reality about reality. Returning to the Old Ways. On sale worldwide, online now.
Okay, so because I'm in Australia, let's put the flag back up there, because we're in Australia now. Brooke was already in Australia, but since I'm in Australia now, we're doing a special giveaway only for people in Australia, on the continent of Australia only. For a limited time, we are going to be signing books we're doing a giveaway for anyone that is interested only on the continent of Australia. If you want a copy of one of my books, either in the paperback or in the hardcover, if you contact myself, Leonard O'Neill, or Brooke O'Neill on Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, all the platforms that we're on, Messenger, if you contact us, and while supplies last, I will sign a copy and put whatever you guys want on the copy of the book, and we will mail it to you. And we're giving them away for a pretty good price. So if you guys want a copy, we have, I think we have 5 or 6 copies left of the hardcover and 7 or 8 copies of the paperback. So $50 for the hardcover plus shipping. And I will sign it for you. I'll autograph it and put whatever you want in there. So you can just tell me your name, give me the spelling, give me the message you want me to write in there. So $50 plus whatever the shipping is, depending on where you are in Australia. And we will mail you out a copy of my book, our hardcover or softcover, and contact us for that and give us the information and your digits to where we can send it to you guys until we're out of the copies that I actually have on hand now. And I believe it's 5 hardcovers and 7 or 8 soft covers. So first come, first serve for those of you around the world, in Australia alone, because this is an Australian deal that is for the people here in Australia. I will autograph a copy of my book and mail it out to you, right? So you guys get a hold of us, myself or Brooke, and while supplies last, we're first come, first serve, $50 for a hardcover, and I think we were doing $40 for the soft cover, and that is with shipping, so there'll be an additional charge wherever you are, and so the closer you are to in New South Wales, the cheaper it'll be, and we will ship it to you. And I'll sign it, like I said, autograph it for you, and put whatever it is that you want me to write in there to you, and we'll do that. And that's a special deal that we're doing for the people of Australia, because I am now in Australia. I'm proud to be in Australia, and I'm proud to be broadcasting from Australia. So to commemorate that, for that short time until we're out of the hardcover and softcover books, first come, first serve, contact myself or Brooke, and we will get those out to you as soon as we possibly can. Okay, let's get back to, and that book is called, you heard it if you're around the world somewhere on the MP3 broadcast, The Reality About Reality Returning to the Old Ways. Let's continue with Corpus Hermeticum.
Him as
Wait, let me finish with the I just almost forgot and took off right here. Let me finish with the Reese. Welcome, brother. There's another person that's here in New South Wales, right? Welcome, Reese. And once you get settled, Reese said he's moving currently. They're packing up and moving. Once you get settled, brother, let us know. And Brooke and I are going to come up and visit you guys. We've been wanting to do that since I got here, but we were settling in, and we knew you guys were in the middle of doing stuff there up north as well. So let us know when you guys get settled that we can come up and we'll plan something and we'll come and see you guys, right? So give us a rundown and give us a timeline when you have that, brother, when you guys are settled. So yeah, let's get into the moon, right? So Peter was talking about this earlier. So was Reese, as a matter of fact. We're both talking about the black moon and the full moon that was just coming in this cycle, going into the next one. And we're halfway through that cycle now. And we're into that Virgo energy. And I just posted a video about it in the Orion Rising chat, formerly known as the Law of One chat, a video about the black moon. This is a new beginning. New moons are new beginnings. So we're in that time. Let me pull myself back up on the screen here, and then we'll get back into the Corpus Hermeticum. So the new moon is the time of the beginning. So it's always the time to start something new. And on a black moon, which only occurs every couple of years, the energy is even more intense. So at this time sorry, I have a cord that was attaching to my foot underneath the desk here. So at this time is a great time. Today is the new moon, the 23rd of August is the new moon. So depending on where in the world you are currently, for those of us that are on this in this hemisphere of the world, which I'm very proud to be in Australia, for those of us who are already in the August 23rd, it is the new moon. For those of you on the other part of the world that hasn't hit this yet, you're about to. This is a time to, as Peter was saying, and Reese were talking about shedding off negative energies, changing those things about yourself for the positive. This is the ultimate time. Any new moon is a great time for that, but a black new moon, the darkest new moon, in that time, the energy is more apparent, and you can cast off these old things and retune the body. So it's very apropos that here on the new moon, I didn't plan this, but here on the new moon, the message in the Corpus Hermeticum is that message of tuning, of driving yourself forward as the minstrel playing the tune, to try to then balance and tune your instrument, but continuing the message. And that is what the new moon is about. And that's very apropos that it happened exactly like that. And Fiona making that comment earlier. So yes, Melissa says this is the drawing moon, right? This is the drawing moon. It's going to begin to wax. Right now, it's a new moon. There is no moon. It's a dark moon. It's a black moon. And then the moon is going to start drawing. It's going to start waxing itself, start waxing to the full moon. So it's going to start drawing in the heavens. So this is a time to draw you the way you want to be, retune your instrument, your vessel, the way that you want, and you have more abilities at this time because it's first of all, it's a new moon, and that's the beginning. So it's always proper to begin things on a new moon. But black moon is it's a rare occasion with a stronger energy. So now, like Peter was saying, like Reese was saying, in the last 15 days, where they were saying, write these things down, the negative things that you want to expel and get rid of. Then you can take that paper and you can burn that paper and then take those ashes and bury those ashes. You can do these things, get rid of the negative energy that you don't like about yourself or the things you want to change about yourself, and then write down the positive things that you want, the positive affirmations that you want to replace that negative energy. Today is the day to do that and to take care of that and to say, these are the things. It's like a new year when people have resolutions. But in this case, these are the times when you can shed that negative energy, those negative people that are in your life that it's time that you know that you've outgrown or that you're outgrowing, and it's time to move away from them. Don't be afraid of doing that. Don't be afraid of changing yourself. Don't be afraid of retuning yourself. Do find that in your message and then move forward. And if you're not perfect, again, the minstrel playing the instrument, if you're not perfect, it's okay. Continue to do what you're doing and then take care of yourself as you go and retune yourself as you go. But be aware that there is these things. Be honest with yourself, be objective and say, I'm not perfect. And it's okay to not be perfect because no one's perfect. This is the message of the Corpus Hermeticum today, weirdly, that it happened on this exact day, which is the black moon. So utilize this black moon. You have this time period, this day, this 24 hours, wherever you are on this earth, that this black moon is happening, that is on the new moon, that is the darkest new moon, that is going to be the darkest time before the dawn, that's darkest just before the dawn. Utilize this time to expel negative energy, to take and reflect on yourself, be honest with yourself and say, I want to fix these things, right? Yeah, and then Fiona says, I write on bay leaves. Let's put this up on the screen. I write on bay leaves the negative things, what people have said to me, because that ain't me, and I've been on Facebook, in Facebook jail, right? Because somebody gets mad at you for doing that, right? In Facebook jail isn't why. That's why I haven't been around. It's because of the BS on Facebook. Yeah, you say the wrong thing, somebody reports it, they put you in Facebook jail, and then you can't say anything, you can't post on anybody's anything, right? So write down all these negative things, expel those negative things, right? You can look that up. There's a video, like I said, in our chat that I posted yesterday about the black moon. Reese has been talking about it, and Peter have been talking about the entire month. So the cycle between full moon, and we're now at the 15-day mark between the two full moons. And if you look at that, that's like the goddess symbol of the two crescents with the full moon. This is the opposite of that, which is the dark moon with the two full moons. So this is the opposing energy of that that they use for the goddess symbol. So now you would be in the masculine portion of the feminine. The feminine would be the two crescents with the full moon, the mother maiden crone. And now you're into the masculine energy of the male, the same with the dark moon and then the two full moons on the opposite sides, right? So now you have the opportunity to start new and move forward, right? Fiona says, I'm far from not being perfect, right? We're all far from being perfect, right? I've just gone through experiences, what others may not or have gone through, but they haven't sat with their fear and haven't sat with their shadow. Agreed, right? Jillian, welcome. Jillian Parker. I haven't seen Jillian for a while. We talked not too long ago, right? But it was it's been a while. Before that, we had lost contact with each other for a couple of years, right? So welcome. Jillian Parker. She says, hey, Leo, right? Yeah, hugs, right? So this is the day, new moon, dark moon, black moon. This is the day for beginnings. So write down those negative things. Move those negative things over. Tune your instrument. The instrument is your body. Tune that instrument. You're the minstrel. You're the one who's playing this instrument. You're not going to be perfect. Your instrument's not going to be perfect, but play your tune the best that you can, and your message will resonate with those people, and be proud of that. And that's the message that is happening right now in the Corpus Hermeticum. So let me go ahead and we'll go right back into this now and continue.
Much of his due as their strength permits, then they also will be forgiven. Moreover, this very fact contributes to God's renown, that he is greater than his own progeny, and that the preface, beginning, middle, and end of our praises are to confess our Father's limitless power and limitless extent. For the King, it is just the same.
I started Tai Chi at 50. Now I'm 68.
Commercial.
And doctors ask me.
Praising God is in our nature as humans because we happen to be, in some sense, his descendants. But we must ask forgiveness, even if for the most part it comes from the Father before the asking. A father cannot turn away newborn infants because they lack strength. No, he delights in their coming to know him. In the same way, the knowledge of the universe that confers on everything life, as well as the praise of God that God has presented to us. God, who is good and ever shining, who always contains within him the limit of his own eminence, who is immortal, who encompasses within himself the endless portion allotted to him, who always keeps flowing from the energy there above to the cosmos here below, and makes the promise that leads to the praise that saves. There above, then, beings are not different from one another, nor does inconstancy exist there above. All think one thought, and all have the same foreknowledge. They have one mind, the Father. One sense works in them, and the charm that brings them together is love. The same love that makes one harmony act in all things. Therefore, let us praise God, but next let us descend to those who have received their scepters from him. We began with kings, and the practice we had with them also accustomed us to giving panegyrics and singing reverent hymns to the Almighty. So we must first begin our praise with God and use it as training, and then exercise the training through God. The purpose is to have in us the exercise of reverence for God, as well as praise for kings. We must also render them compensation for spreading before us the prosperity that comes of such great peace. A king's virtue, indeed his name alone, is the arbiter of peace. For a king is so called from the light step with which he sets his foot, even upon the highest authority, because he achieves dominion over the discourse that brings peace, and because he was born to outdo barbarian kingship, inasmuch as his name is the token of peace. Accordingly, a king's challenge has often caused the enemy's withdrawal. Even statues of the kings are havens of peace for the tempest-tossed. The sight alone of a king's image has brought quick victory, and if it stands unthreatened and undamaged, has protected those who stand by it.
See, again, that same information, that same message being shown that speak your truth, continue with what you're doing, and don't be afraid, because that being you with the message being from the universe, from God, that message being counted, the countenance of that message to the world, being righteous, will create fear in the minds of those people who are evil. They may try to lash out at you, they may try to strike at you, but the message is true. And if you are delivering the proper message, and if you do trust in the universe, that will cause them more fear than anything. That's why you end up, Fiona, getting put into Facebook jail, because you speak your mind. You're not afraid of that. And you said something that they don't like and they don't agree with, so they punish you for doing it. That is what evil people do, right? Okay, let's continue.
Asclepius. To me, this Asclepius is like the sun, a holy book of Hermes Trismegistus, addressed to Asclepius. God, Asclepius, God has brought you to us so that you might join in a divine discourse, such a discourse as, in justice, seems more divine in its reverent fidelity than any we have had before, more than any that divine power inspired in us. If you are seen to understand it, your whole mind will be completely full of all good things, assuming that there are many goods and not one good in which all are. Admittedly, the one is consistent with the other. All are of one, or all are one, for they are linked, so that one cannot be separated from the other. But you will learn this by careful concentration from the discourse to come. Now go out for a moment, Asclepius, and call Tat to join us. When Tat came in, Asclepius suggested that Hammon also join them. Trismegistus said, "No jealousy keeps Hammon from us. Indeed, we recall having written many things in his name, as we have also written so much on physical and popular topics for Tat, our dearest and most loving son. But this treatise I shall write in your name. Call no one but Hammon, lest the presence and interference of the many profane this most reverent discourse on so great a subject. For the mind is irreverent that would make public by the awareness of the many a treatise so very full of the majesty of divinity." When Hammon had also come into the sanctuary, the reverence of the four men and the divine presence of God filled that holy place. Duly silent, the minds and thoughts of each of them waited respectfully for a word from Hermes, and then divine love began to speak. Every human soul is immortal, Asclepius, but not all in the same way. Some differ in manner and time from others. Is it not true, Trismegistus, that every soul is of the same quality?
My business is thriving, so when I heard that ClickUp is the AI work platform...
Asclepius, how quickly you have lapsed from reason's true restraint. Did I not say that all are one and one all, inasmuch as all were in the Creator before he created them all? Not unjustly was he called all, whose members are all. In this whole discussion, then, take care to remember him who alone is all, or who is himself the creator of all. From the heavens all things come into earth and water and air. Only the fire that moves upward is life-giving. What moves down is subservient to it. But whatever descends from on high is a breeder. What diffuses upward is a feeder. Earth, who alone stands still in herself, is the receptacle of all and the renewer of all the kinds that she takes in. Therefore, this is the whole, as you remember, because it is all and consists of all. Soul and matter, embraced by nature, are so stirred by the varied, multiform quality of all images that, in the discontinuity of their qualities, the forms are known to be infinite, yet they are united to this end, that the whole might seem to be one, and that all might seem to be from one.
See, so again, here's that message. And the message is what? That we are one, we are all. And that is the same message that the name of the Creator, when Moses went to the burning bush and said, who shall I say sent me? They're going to want to know the name of their Creator, of God. And God said, I am that I am. Literally, that the name of God, that name is I am that I am. So what is that? That translates to I am the all, the Alpha and the Omega, the beginning and the end. I am that I am. God said that to Moses. I am the Alpha and the Omega, the beginning and the end, all and nothing, nothing and all. So we are all, we are one. So here's that same message, right? So Melissa's saying we are many times right now, not just many times, but we are many things right now because we are. I am that I am. I am all that I am. Even like the cartoon with Popeye the Sailor from the 40s, I think, when they made those, he said, I am what I am. And he would say that, I am what I am. Ka, 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 ka. You know, and he would do that weird Popeye laugh. I am what I am. God says, I am that I am. We are all, we are one. We are one, we are all. The Three Musketeers in the book and the movies, all for one, one for all. This message is something that you're hearing reoccurring throughout all of time by different people. We are one, we are many, we are all. We are all one. This message is one of the pure messages that are coming across through all of time. So I had to change my glasses. The glasses that I had on before were reading, and I had to be about this close to be able to read the words on the screen from the book. So I went and got my other glasses and put these on so that I could see this from this distance. So literally, you have to realize that here again is the other side of that coin, that the message, this is continuing from the instrument and the minstrel playing the instrument, the soul that is occupying this body, is now going from the physical, the instrument, to the minstrel, and now from the minstrel, the soul, to the Creator, showing that you are one, that we are one, all of us are one, all of us are the Creator. Because, and you heard the statement, that when everything was created, we were all a part of the Creator, and then the Creator created these things and then occupied these things by creating us. So where did that come from? That came from the mind of the Creator, that came from the Creator itself, their self. So me as an individual human in this flesh, I'm part of the collective that is the human race, even if it's just on Earth. And then I'm part of the Earth, because literally, if you look at all the animals that are on the Earth and how their physiology works, we're very similar. So we're different species, but we're the same species in some senses, that we have children the same way. We have a male and a female, and then those two get together, and then that creates in the female a life that ingests that is incubating within the creation of the female. All of the animals do the same thing. So there is a thing that's running, even though there's differences in the animals. There's that thing where we all have the same type of organs. We all have the same physiology in some respect, even though there's differences and we can't breed with these other animals. But it's all similar. So it all fits on this earth, and the ecosystem is balanced through all of these plants and animals, and the air we breathe. Like, we give off the carbon and the plants breathe in the carbon, and they give off oxygen, which we breathe in. So as long as we have plants on the planet, we sustain them in some ways that they sustain us, and then we eat their flesh of the plants, and that gives us energy. And then we expend our poop out of our bodies, and what does that do? That feeds the plants. So there's this ecosystem that we're all one in this larger picture, that we all have this balance here on this earth, that if we disrupt the balance, that changes the balance and causes problems. If the instrument isn't tuned properly, it creates issues. But the musician still plays on. The music continues. It just plays partly out of tune from a certain instrument that is lacking in a certain way. Here's that same metaphor. Now it's making the connection of your immortal soul to the creator and the creation. So we're part of the creation in the 3D. We're part of the creator in the 4D, 5D, the spirit, the soul, and then above that. Do you see? So now you literally see, going from one chapter to the next, where now they're making that connection. Hermes is talking and making that connection to the creator and showing that you're not just part of the creation, you're actually part of the creator. So all is one. We are all part of the creator, as the creator is all part of us. So we're not in the universe is in us. Do you see? So this is that same message. Let's continue here with that.
The elements by which the whole of matter has been formed, then, are four: fire, water, earth, air. One matter, one soul, and one God. Now give me your whole attention, all your strength of mind, all your clever ingenuity. Giving an account.
See, and that's actually very telling, that Melissa, it's very astute of you to catch that. Fire is the most primal thing, the first thing, right? Light. First thing there was, God created light. What is light? Light is fire, right? So God created a light, and then he was saying that life is the fire is the life giver that moves upward, right? I was literally just said. So that's why God appeared as the burning bush. Why? Because God is light. God is fire. Out of fire comes life, right? And that's part of the cycle. That's a very astute of you, Melissa, to have caught that. And literally Hermes is saying that here, that fire is the life bringer. Light is the life bringer. If you look at the sun, Sol, the sun in this solar system, and Sol is the life bringer. So the light coming from the sun, the vibration coming from that sun, is what through photosynthesis gives life to plants. Well, what is that sun but a ball of fire? So there's fire coming off of a gas that's burning millions, hundreds of millions of miles away, and whatever the exact distance is, don't quote me on that and get angry with me. But so that then the vibration of that, the light waves, the waves that are coming off of that fire is, and the warmth of that, the heat of that is giving life here on Earth. We would not be able to exist as a species right now without the warmth of that sun coming down, those light rays, the energy from the fire itself, giving us life. So that's very astute. That would be why God appeared. Let me put that back up on the screen that Melissa said. God appeared as the burning bush, because through fire comes life. Through light comes life. So the metaphor of fire being that which cleanses, because if you have a forest fire, the fire burns. I was just talking about this the other day. The fire burns through, say, a forest, and it burns down the forest, and all of the gases that come off of that, and all of the charcoal that's left over, the burnt bushes, the burnt trees, that which is left now is food for plants like Miracle Grow. I'm just using a product that you would spray on something, that you would spray on a plant to make it grow faster, or something that you would fertilize plants with. It becomes fertilizer. So out of the fire that kills everything, now life will grow even faster than normal, and it turns on that portion within plants to make them grow super fast. So out of the fire that destroys the old, there is a renewal of life that begins again. That's the cycle just in the fire. So there's a cycle in all life of birth, life, death, mother, maiden, crone, right? So you have the beginning, and then you have the middle, and then you have the ending of every life form. And that's one thing that's universal in around the universe itself, right? So it also causes the seed. Yes, some of the plants, I was just going over this in a class that Brooke is in. They were talking about this very thing, that the fire and itself, the heat, right? Melissa, I put it up on the screen, says also seeds burst and even toasted nuts for creators. That some plants can only germinate with fire, or with the smoke that comes off the fire. That which is in the smoke of the fire has to expose itself to a plant, certain plants, for those plants to then breed. So it causes some plants to do that and germinate and actually breed, and other plants that acts like a Miracle Grow and helps it. So the renewal, people think that a fire is destructive and it destroys. It does temporarily. Volcanoes destroy, but the gases that come off of as it cools, and the gases that come out of this molten rock as it cools, actually feeds plants to get them to grow even faster. So through the death, there is renewal. And in life, there is always death. It's part of the cycle of life. So there has to be renewal, has to be beginning. So you have to have a mother to gestate, to then give birth, to then you grow and you become old yourself. And then you will then pass on what you've learned through genetics or through education. And then you will cease. And then that in your life gives birth to other lives, that gives birth, and the cycle of life continues. So you have all of that. And how is that started? Through light. Light was, and then if you listen to the different religions around the world, God said, let there be light, right? Let's continue here. So it's kind of crazy. The cycle of life is tied into the cyclical nature of nature, and the cyclical nature of nature is tied into the cyclical nature of the universe, and the universes, or the galaxy, and then the universe, and then the multiverses. There's a cyclical nature to everything. So that is the all and nothing. That is the beginning and the end. That is the Alpha and the Omega. That is the I am. All of it is synonymous in a crazy, weird way. Let's continue.
Count of divinity, whose knowing needs a godlike concentration of consciousness, is most like a river running in torrent from a height, sweeping, plunging, so that its rapid rush outraces our concentration, not only as we listen, but even as we teach. The heavens, a perceptible God, administer all bodies whose growth and decline have been charged to the sun and moon. But God, who is their maker, is himself governor of heaven and of soul itself, and of all things that are in the world. From all these, all governed by the same God, a continuous influence carries through the world and through the soul of all kinds and all forms throughout nature.
You're going to start being publicly introduced in open contact to extraterrestrials.
God prepared matter as a receptacle for omniform forms, but nature, imaging matter with forms by means of the four elements, causes all things to reach as far as heaven, so that they will be pleasing in the sight of God. All things that depend from above, however, are divided into forms in the way that I am about to explain. Forms of all things follow kinds, so that the kind is the entirety, while the form is a smaller part of the kind. Thus, the kind made up of gods will produce from itself the forms of gods. The kind made up of demons, as that of humans and likewise birds and all things that the world contains, breeds forms resembling itself. There is another kind of living thing, a kind without soul, yet not lacking senses. It thus finds joy in good treatment, harm and weakness in adversity. I am speaking of all those things that come to life in the earth when their roots and stems are undamaged. Their forms have been scattered all over the earth. Heaven itself is full of God. The aforesaid kinds, however, dwell as far as the places that belong to its forms, and the forms of all these things are immortal. Now a form is part of a kind, as a human is of humanity, and it must follow the quality of its kind. Whence, although all kinds are immortal, it happens that not all forms are immortal. In the case of divinity, both kinds and form are immortal. The fertility of coming to be preserves the kinds of other things, where eternity belongs to the kind, even though the forms perish. Thus there are mortal forms, but not kinds, so that a human is mortal and humanity immortal. However, the forms of all kinds combine with all kinds. Some were made before, some are made from those that were made. Those made by gods or by demons or by humans are all forms closely resembling their kinds. It is impossible for bodies to be shaped without divine assent, for forms to be figured without the aid of demons, and without humans, soulless things cannot be started and kept going.
Right. So there again, like I was saying, right, that the ecosystem is the ecosystem, and then we play a part in it. So here you're seeing that, right? And even Melissa says, right, like plants, talking about plants, right? So you have the different plants and the humans, right? And then she says, though humans are don't follow a pattern like other things, we do in that we procreate other humans, right? So we do follow that pattern to where we create ourselves and we perpetuate our species. But you're right, the difference between plants and animals and humans is consciousness. Self-awareness is the difference between an inanimate object, an animate object, and a human or an intelligence. The difference is that you have a rock or a tree and they have an intelligence, but they don't have a self-awareness in the way that we do. They become self-aware over time. And when they become self-aware over time, that's the way that the universe works. The soul that's in there, that is that plant, that dog, that cat, that fish, that tree, that whatever, when it becomes self-aware, as it becomes self-aware, then when that life cycle ends, the soul that was in that plant will then become on this planet a human and be born into a human. As a human, we are self-aware. As we're self-aware, we start then ascending to the realization that we are an immortal soul. Not I have a soul, I am. Again, there's that I am. When you start to realize that I am, not I have, I am. I am an immortal soul. I am not just this body. I am this body and I am this immortal soul. I am that I am. I am the Alpha and the Omega, the beginning and the end. So then you start realizing that small portion of what you're saying. And so we are different in that respect, that we don't have the same patterns as others do, because our pattern now is moving into the spiritual instead of the physical. So the physical pattern that we still have is that we procreate, we live, we create, we procreate, we learn, and then we move beyond. And so we, instead of just living over and over again as a tree, grass, we're now moving out of the physical plane, human, until we move out of the physical plane of this part of I am in this three-dimensional dimension, and then we move into the I am portion of the density, realizing there is 2Ds to this 3D. There's the third dimension, physicality, and there's the third density, non-physicality. And once we move into that realization that I am, not I have an immortal soul, I am the immortal soul, then you move, and there's that finger that you see all the time that's synonymous with John the Baptist and Baptists in the Southern Baptists in the United States, where they put that finger up. It's because I am the immortal soul. That's where you get that from. Look up. Up is where I am. I am the immortal soul. I am not just here. So that's where you see that symbology in all of the world, and you always see that finger. Leonardo da Vinci painted that many times. Even at the Last Supper, you see that there is the character there that is pointing upward. You see that all throughout time. And what is that? That is the we are not just from here. We are from the heavens. I am. So when the burning bush was talking to Moses, he's saying, I am. And what is the burning bush doing? It's going up. It's pointing up. The fire is rising. That is the Orion rising. If you look on the screen, where am I? Over here. If you look on the screen, Orion rising. The whole purpose of that is the realization. If you look at my symbol, let me put it up on the screen for you, and we'll talk about that, right? Let me put it up on the screen, right? The symbol there is the pyramids, and these pyramids are pointing upwards. And what are they pointing at? They're pointing at the Orion's belt. They're pointing at Orion. When the pyramids were built, the pyramids were the Orion's belt was in the sky when the pyramids were built above that plateau. The three pyramids mirror the Orion's belt. That some people want to say that somewhere inside the Giza plateau or inside the big pyramid there in the center, that one of the vents points towards Orion. It's actually not true. It points the wrong direction. It points the opposite direction. It doesn't point towards Orion. However, the three pyramids that are there, oddly, some people say it has nothing to do with it and it's a coincidence, oddly are mirroring the Orion's belt. And they're not the only pyramidal complex around the world that is doing so. So it is apropos that I named my book and this show Orion Rising. Why? Because all around the world there are at least 7 complexes of pyramids that are 3 pyramids in the exact shapes and distances that mirror that belt of Orion. And so there are some people that believe, and I'm one of them, that believe that those informations from those pyramidal complexes were trying to point people in a direction, a certain direction. And then when you have, like, say, the law of one from Ra talking about coming from Orion and following these evil people calling themselves the Orion Crusaders, who are invading this planet and have, and many other things that are many other solar systems, and just in this sector of this Milky Way galaxy and other places. That these conglomeration of people, this confederation, this group of people, coalition of planets coming from the Orion Nebula, from all of the Orion star systems that make up the Orion, that are following these people and stopping these people who are, and keeping the balance in this universe and in this Milky Way galaxy harmoniously, in this yin yang dance, this light dark dance, this kundalini kunda buffer masculine feminine dance of aggression and love in the universe itself. To keep the cyclical nature of the universe has a lot more to do with everything in the universe than it doesn't, is something that some of us have noticed and some of us know about, that is a higher cyclical nature of nature itself. Okay, so you hear this being played out in many ways, echoing throughout all of time in these messages from all over this planet, through on the entire history of religion, philosophical thought, and spiritual content, scrolls and the like around the world throughout history. So this is why I was talking earlier in the show about people in theology in itself, just looking at the religion, looking at who created that, and where is the scroll, and where's the next one, and who did this, and the message itself is being ignored, while you're looking for a book or you're looking for a scroll, and you keep finding a scroll, and then you read the information that's on the scroll just to find out how similar it was to another one. And then you go, where did they get this from? And then you go, well, then it must be similar to another one. And then you're going and looking for that. And the entire time you're ignoring that message that is in there in all of them that is the same. And people have been ignoring that throughout time. And that's being done on purpose. That information is being kept from you on purpose and having you chasing your tail, looking for another tree, and you're hacking down forests to find the specific tree that you're looking for. And then when you find the one, you go, yeah, but look, this one was grown and it looks like those ones over there. Let's go find the other one that this one came from. And you go knock down all that forest. So meanwhile, while you're knocking down the forest, you're knocking down the message. And you're ignoring the message itself, and you're trying to find the vessel the message came in. You're looking for the messenger instead of the message. Who's the oldest messenger? Let's go. It wasn't Jesus. Was it Muhammad? Was it Jesus? Was it Moses? Was it David? Was it Daniel? It couldn't have been a God, even though a God is the one thing that was giving the message to all of those humans down here. Forget about that. There is no God. We got to find the original messenger, physical, plain person who created all of this. And in that lies the answer to the equation. Okay, in that is the answer to the equation. What is the underlying message here? Don't look to the heavens, because there is nothing there. If I'm in service to self, that's what I want you to believe, that only everything on earth is the reality. So therefore, we're going to find the one man somewhere on this earth that created the entire thing, and he's going to brag about it. And he's going to say, ha, 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 I have created all of this so that everybody throughout all of time will then be fooled into believing that there is a God. There is no God. I am the master of the universe, and I have been dead for 100 billion years on earth by the time you find this message, but you will know that I created all of this and it's all just me. That's what they're looking for. They're looking for that person that they can say made all of it up. Why are they doing that? Because they know, first of all, they know that that's untrue, but they're having everybody run and look for that. Why? Because it's a distraction away from the message itself. So like, for instance, Jesus, when Jesus is speaking and people are talking about what Jesus said and what Jesus was teaching you, they want you to, eye rolls, right? Melissa says eye roll. So when they want you, what they want you to do, instead of listening to the message that Jesus told you, they're wanting to go, well, there is no definitive proof that that man existed. Let's look into the person that was Jesus. And then you have some heretical Jews and some Hasidic Jews that are saying, no, Jesus was created by the Romans. I just posted a video that talks about that. Maybe I didn't. I posted one of the videos that showed that I believe that it did. Yeah, that Constantine created the religion of Christianity. Why? To control the people. So you have some Hebrews today, alive today, that are saying the Romans created Jesus. They didn't create Jesus. They created the religion out of Jesus. Let's assume Jesus didn't exist and Jesus wasn't a real person, and Jesus was just a knowledge that was being taught on this earth, because that is true. The Christ was a knowledge that was being taught on this earth. So let's pretend that the Romans created the religion and that there was no human called Jesus. Let's do that. Okay, so they created the religion itself to control the masses so that they can keep control of the masses, and have done a pretty good job. The bad job that they did is that they used the message to do that. So the message is still sound. The message is still the same message. Here's my point of this. It doesn't matter whether Jesus was a human being. It only matters to human beings if Jesus was a human being. And anyone that wants to discredit Jesus wants him to be a human being so that they can discredit the message. Do you understand what's happening here? They have you chase the human, and they say there is no definitive proof that there is that human. You better go find it. Because without proof that that human existed, there is nothing. And then if you prove that the human actually existed, they're going to go, well, because he's human, it's nothing. So they're setting you up to fail. The same thing goes with the story itself. So you'll have people say Jesus isn't the savior. And then you have after that Muhammad. Well, Muhammad isn't the savior because there's no definitive proof that Muhammad existed. So then they say, well, the message came from Moses. Well, there's no definitive proof that Moses existed as a person. And even if he did, there's still no proof of this so-called God except for a burning bush. And Moses claiming that he saw it. No one else saw it. No one else talked to it. They saw a burning bush. Moses climbed up the mountain, came down, looked older, and said that he talked to God. No one else heard that. So they can discredit the man. So what they're doing is they're having you focus. Don't look at the message. Don't even talk about the message. Focus on the man. This is the same thing that I talked about early in the show when you're speaking and people will focus on your words, your punctuation, your spelling. The message of the instrument being focused on instead of the minstrel playing the tune. The tune is the message. The instrument is the method that you use for the harmonics for people to hear it. But what is, if you just focus on the instrument, well, that's out of tune, and that thing is not a Stradivarius, and that thing is a substandard, and that's all you focus on, and that's what they keep you focused on. You're going to go, yeah, that's not the right message. That's not the real message. And what is the real message? I don't know, but it has to be a Stradivarius. Otherwise, it's not the real message. So that one's not the real message. Meanwhile, the message, the harmonics, the story that the music is telling is now not in your intention, not in your attention. You're not looking at it. So instead of saying the minstrel, who is the orchestra or the conductor of the message itself, you're focusing on that personage. Again, this is the underlying message of all of this. The distraction by evil people is to keep you searching for something in the physical, because if you don't focus on the physical, you then focus upwards. You then focus upwards. You then focus inwards, and then you focus on the non-physical. Reese says, yeah, right. First Melissa says, woof, woof, chase, chase, fetch. And that's what they're having you do. And Reese says, I wonder, was the burning bush on acacia? Is that the word? The DMT tree, right? So who knows? I'm not exactly sure. That would be something that we should look into, Reese, to find out what was actually burning. Was it an olive? Was it acacia? And if so, then Reese's contention, when Moses got near it, he's going to be smelling the burning and getting high. The DMT is getting into his brain. Did that then act like a psilocybin, DMT, and the like when you do ingest peyote or you take DMT, ayahuasca, psilocybin, and that raises your vibration and gets you high, and then you have this euphoric effect and you leave your body and you end up in the center of the universe, which people in the physical, again, will get you chasing the physical, right, Reese? And they'll say, no, it was just because you were on drugs and your brain got weirded out and you thought you saw this deity figure. But it's very possible. They do know that the oracle at Delphi, that she was literally would be in this one place where then she was channeling this information. And they said that they've now realized that there was cracks in the floor. There was this crack that the building was built around, that the people knew about it. And the girl, whoever the oracle was at the time, was inhaling this gas. And that had the same effect, to where she was able to then have these visions. And so now in the modern physical plane, people go, well, she was just high on some drug that was poisoning her brain and killing her. And so she, of course, was seeing gods and things like that. Again, distracting and saying that all of that in the physical is making you hallucinate, and none of it is real. And that's what they do with DMT, ayahuasca, psilocybin. So it's very possible, Reese, I think that you have a very good ponderance there, that whatever the bush was giving off probably a smoke that was raising Moses's vibration and allowing that to happen. So I think that's one of the greatest questions I've ever heard anyone ask, bro, for serious, for real, because it would have created an effect of raising his vibration and separating his spirit, his soul, from his physical body, and his immortal soul, his immortal spirit from his body, to then be able to have that ability to be in and perceive himself being in one place and in another, standing there speaking to God. So that would I would wonder that question. I don't know if we'll ever be able to answer that question unless we find the soul that was Moses and ask the soul that was Moses if the soul that was Moses can remember that actual moment in time. But I think that would probably aid in that effect of the speaking to God by having the DMT in the smoke, and Moses going there and feeling that euphoric effect, and then having that raise his vibration suddenly to this very high vibration, to where he was out of body and having that experience in talking to God. People in the physical will tell you that was the drug and that there is no God and that it was all bullshit, because that's what they have to do, because they have to believe that. So, right, yeah, definitely a thorny bush, right? Because they talked about that. So I think that's a great question, and maybe we could find that out. I wonder if there's any way of finding that out, Reese, where we can look into that. But that was one of the greatest questions I've ever heard anybody ask. I wonder if the burning bush was acacia, the DMT tree. Who knows? And how did it get started, and what would be the odds of that, right? Lightning striking that particular tree, Moses noticing it, going up there, standing there, and having that conversation. Again, in the non-physical, if you look at it from the standpoint of the immortal and the universe, then it would be exactly what God wanted to happen. And then if you look at it from the physical, you'd be like, he was tripping, he was on a drug, and that was it. It had nothing to do with anything. Chase, good woof woof, like Melissa said, woof woof, chase, go and get the fetch, go get the stick, right? So again, that's a great ponderance that we should all think about. What exactly was that? And was it something, again, where the scent of that created that by the DMT in Moses' brain to allow him to be out of body at that moment? And if you're in the physical plane and that's all you think about is physicality, you're going to see that as, he did a drug and he was tripping and the whole thing was made up anyway, and it all just happened in his mind. Because you have to do that if you're self-serving, because nothing can be greater than you. And if you're a self-serving person who thinks they own this planet, nothing can be bigger or better than you are. Therefore, it had to have been a drug. It has to be fake. It has to be made up. Fetch the stick, right? Let's continue here. Let's go over here and continue. But the underlying message is still the same. Again, you're seeing this reoccurring throughout time and history, and that is that we are all one. And this is the same knowledge that people are learning around the world, right? Wait, here, this is the perfect time for me to again do a commercial for my book, right? So what is the information that I'm teaching? What is the book that I'm talking about? Is the reality about reality, returning to the old ways.
What is the reality about reality? Returning to the old ways. It is a comprehensive book about what is really going on here on this planet. It talks about the true spirituality that the controllers who think they own this planet have been keeping from you for thousands of years. It explains to you the knowledge that you gain from the universe itself when you live the way the prophets of the world throughout time told us how to live. Eat right, meditate, take care of yourself, treat others right. All the things they originally told us to do, but the controllers have removed from right in front of our eyes. The way to ascend to heaven. The reality about reality. Returning to the old ways. On sale worldwide, online now.
Okay, let's continue here with Corpus Hermeticum.
Therefore, because they are conjoined to some form of a divine kind, any demons who by chance drop down from their kind into a form are considered godlike by nearness and association. But those demons are called friendly to humans whose form persists in the quality of their kind. For humans, the pattern is similar but broader. The form of humankind is multiform and various, coming down from association with the higher form just described. It makes many conjunctions with all other forms, and, of necessity, makes them with almost everything. Hence, one who has joined himself to the gods in divine reverence using the mind that joins him to the gods, almost attains divinity. And one who has been joined to the demons attains their condition.
Listen, it's called Connect Team, and
You're the
it's
commercial.
insane. I don't do schedules or timesheets manually anymore, and it works.
Human are they who remain content with the middle status of their kind, and the remaining forms of people will be like those kinds to whose forms they adjoin themselves. Because of this, Asclepius, a human being is a great wonder, a living thing to be worshipped and honored, for he changes his nature into a god's as if he were a god. He knows the demonic kind, inasmuch as he recognizes that he originated among them. He despises the part of him that is human nature, having put his trust in the divinity of his other part. How much happier is the blend of human nature! Conjoined to the gods by a kindred divinity, he despises inwardly that part of him in which he is earthly. All others he draws close to him in a bond of affection, recognizing his relation to them by heaven's disposition. He looks up to heaven. He has been put in the happier place of middle status so that he might cherish those beneath him and be cherished by those above him. He cultivates the earth. He swiftly mixes into the elements. He plumbs the depths of the sea and the keenness of his mind. Everything is permitted him. Heaven itself seems not too high, for he measures it in his clever thinking as if it were nearby. No misty air dims the concentration of his thought. No thick earth obstructs his work. No abysmal deep of water blocks his lofty view. He is everything, and he is everywhere. Of all these kinds, the ensouled have roots reaching them from on high to below, but living things without soul branch from a root that grows from beneath to above. Some things are nourished on composite food, others on simple food. The types of food are two, one for the soul, the other for the body, the two substances of which living things consist. Soul feeds on the ever-restless stirring of the world. Bodies grow on water and earth, foods of the lower world. The spirit that fills all mixes with everything and enlivens everything. And in humans, consciousness is added to understanding. Only this fifth part, granted to humanity, comes from the aether. Of all living things, consciousness equips only the human, exalts it, raises it up to understand the divine plan. But since I am reminded to speak about consciousness, I shall also set forth an account of it for you a little later. It is a great subject and very holy, no less than an account of divinity itself. But now let me finish for you what I began. At the very beginning, I was speaking of that conjunction with the gods which only humans enjoy fully because the gods esteem them, those humans who have gained so much happiness that they grasp the divine consciousness of understanding, the diviner consciousness that is only in God and in human understanding. Is consciousness not uniform in all people, Trismegistus? Not all have gained true understanding, Asclepius. They are
Right, common knowledge. People say that all the time. He lacks common knowledge, right? It's only common if everyone has it, right? So understanding or the knowledge of the universe is not common, but it can be, right? So enlightenment can be common, but it's not everyone seeks it. So you have to remember that some people seek third dimensionality. So those people are not going to be enlightened in the ways of the spirit, in spirituality. They're not going to be enlightened in that at all because they're in the physicality. So if they're living in the physicality, they're going to be enlightened only in the physical manner. So if you're self-serving, if you're a narcissist, you will only gain knowledge, and you'll gain some knowledge to the spiritual, but it'll be from the negative standpoint, the self-serving standpoint only. If you're in service to others, you will then ascend and gain knowledge of the universe and non-self-serving knowledge and ways of the universe. So the packages of the knowledge that you unlock will either be self-serving or in service to others in the manner of the knowledge that you learn. They're two different packages, one being good and one being evil. So self-serving being evil, and then in service to others being good. That's an entirely different package of knowledge that you will unlock if you are, once you choose one of those sides. So the people who claim they're in the middle, they're lying. Those are the ones that are lying to you. And they're like, oh no, I can be in the center, I'm neutral. Those people are actually evil. Because if you're not, and you're not self-serving, you would never consider yourself neutral. So you would always consider yourself in a service to other people. You care about people, you love people, you're trying to help people, you're trying to assist people. Those people who claim that they are not, they're actually self-serving. They're lying to you because they don't want you to think they're evil. Oh no, you can come to me. I'm completely neutral, 100% neutral. There is nobody who is in service to others that is neutral. The people who are neutral are only people who are self-serving, who don't want you to think they're self-serving. So anyone who says, oh no, I walk the line, I'm just this person who's equal and I'm whatever, and I'm completely a neutral character. That person is self-serving, and they're lying to you because they want to stay self-serving, but they don't want you to think they're evil. Okay. And that's how you run into those people who will say, no, they're not evil, and being neutral isn't evil. Yes, it is. Yes, it is. Because you're either in service to others, you're in service to self. There is no in between. There is no in between. You have chosen one of those, whether you want to tell yourself that or not. So people who are trying to say, no, I can stay completely 100%, not in the physical plane, in the 3D, you cannot do that. You can do that later on, but you can't do it here. Okay. In the physical, you cannot do that. You're one or the other in 3D, because this is the place where you have to choose one of those paths. It is later on that you can then be neutral, but you have to be past that choice. And the choice starts here in the third dimension, and it continues till halfway through the sixth dimension. It is only a being who has moved beyond that who can then be neutral, because there is no more choice of separation of masculine, feminine. There is no in service to self and in service to others. There just is. And there's an entire new ecosystem that I can't even give you the information for down here, because there is no one high enough. On an individual level, I can tell you that. On a level like this, where I'm talking to the entire planet, I can only give the average information that the world currently is ready for. It's the way that it works. There's this prime directive. If you're familiar with the Star Trek system and the Star Trek world, this prime directive in the universe, when you're at this level, free will is the most important. So I can only give you information that you're ready to hear. And when I'm talking live to the entire world, I can only give the average information that this entire ecosystem on Earth is ready to hear. Whether you like it or not, if you're on that low end of the spectrum of the vibration and you're not ready for it, but the average person is ready for it, that information, I can say it and you'll just think I'm crazy. Right? You just go, that guy's crazy, he's lying, he doesn't know what he's talking about. But there's other people that this will resonate with. On an individual level, one-on-one, the smaller the crowd, the more information I can give you. Those of you who have worked with me personally know exactly what I'm talking about. The smaller the crowd, the more information I can give, because I can tune it to what that individuals, 100 people, 50 people, 30 people, 20, 5, 1. I can give you far more information if you ask me questions individually than I can if you ask me in a public setting, because I can only give the information to the average of what that group of people there is ready for. Let's continue.
Deceived, pursuing on rash impulse and without due consideration of reason, an image that begets malice in their minds, and transforms the best of living things into a beastly nature with brutal habits. When I speak about spirit, I will give you a full account of consciousness and related topics. Mankind is the only living thing that is twofold. One part of him is simple, what the Greeks call ousiodes, what we call a form of divine likeness. What the Greeks call hulikos and we call earthly is fourfold. From it is made the body that covers over what we have already termed divine in mankind. It covers the divinity of pure mind, which rests alone with its kindred, the thoughts of pure mind, at peace with itself as if sheltered by a wall of body. Why then, Trismegistus, should humans have been put in the world? Why do they not live in the highest happiness in the region where God is? You are right to ask, Asclepius. Indeed, we beseech God to grant us the strength to find a reason for it. Although everything depends on God's will, those things especially depend on it that concern the summit of the all whose reason we seek in our present inquiry. Listen then, Asclepius. When the master and shaper of all things, whom rightly we call God, made a God next after himself, who can be seen and sensed, I call this second God sensible, not because he senses, but because he impinges on the senses of those who see him. At another time we shall discuss whether he senses or not.
CRM is so slow. So slow.
Then
we pause there, right? Melissa says, it's living through us. Absolutely. So that is a great analogy, because that right there, it's living through us, is exactly when asked individually, and we can tell this now to the world, but when asked individually prior to about 6 or 7 years ago, individually we could have answered that readily. To the masses, it was a little harder because the entire population wasn't ready for that thought process. But when people individually on a smaller scale would ask the question, what is the function of this third dimensional reality? What is this place created for? What's happening here? What is its purpose? The answer has always been the purpose of this three-dimensional reality that we are experiencing is God, the creator of the universe, is becoming conscious of itself in this place. How is that? God is becoming conscious of itself in this place through the experiences of each fractured, independent, individual personality that is the soul, that is the spirit that is in this avatar. Each one of us individually are a separation because we are all one. We are the all, we are the one, we are the alpha, we are the omega, we are the beginning, we are the end, we are the everything, we are the all. I am that I am. So all of this was created to have the experiences of life. And to have the experiences of life, we must have death. To have the experience of living, we must have non-living. So for us then, going beyond that, not just life itself, but every possible life that we can imagine. So we imagine a life. We imagine an individuality, an individual, me, you, every single one of us are individuals. So we've created more and more and more and more variants so that we can have more and more and more experiences. So we're not just experiencing one life or one death, but we're experiencing all life and all death. So we're all individually having our own experience. And then the creator is fracturing from all of those experiences to echo with new experiences, their variants from each experience. So I have an experience of being created and then going through the cycle of life and going through as a rock or a tree or a blade of grass or the air itself, one single molecule, an amoeba, and then moving from a single cell organism to a multi-celled organism, and then to eventually something that's inanimate, to an animate object, to then an object that is becoming self-aware, and then self-awareness. And then that's the creation of the knowledge of the I am, of the soul, of the independence, of the fracture. And then I go through that and I move to a higher plane. And as I'm doing all of these things, it's being recorded by me. It's being recorded by you. It's being recorded by this place itself. So there's your Trismegistus, your Trismegistus. There's your triad. There's your Father, Son, Holy Spirit, Father, Mother, Mother Mary, Maiden, Crone. You know, you see my point? All of that is threes. There's the power of three. Okay, so then you have, and then again, is that why other races have invested so much in us? Well, that's why we are diverse here with all the races on the earth, and then we're all breeding, and we're breeding different variances from all those races. So if you look at that on a say a larger scale, and you believe that the human genome that I am here is based on at least 7 different races or 22 different races or however many you believe in, that fractures that to other races putting in their DNA, creating this individual. The same thing with all the races on the earth and everybody breeding with everybody, and you're getting all those variants that are breaking off. Instead of having the pure Aryan race, the pure Asian race, the pure African race, you know what I mean? Then we have sub races where you have, like, say in Europe, then you have Norwegians and Finnish and Swedish and German and Danish, and then you keep going, and then you have Italians, and then you have all of those individual fractures from one race, all of the African countries from Africa, from wherever it started there, and then they've fractured off to all these other variants. And then those variants move to other parts of the world, and then they have children with other variants from other races, and they have new variances. Do you see? That is the same thing, as below, so above, as within, so without. So what you have happening on this earth is a reflection of what's going on in the stars. You have what's going on with me as a reflection of what's going on with my inner self, with my higher self, as within, so without, as below, so above. As I am, so too is God. As we are on earth, so too shall be in heaven. Okay. So what you see happening here is a reflection, the microcosm to the macrocosm of the universe itself. What's happening on earth is a reflection of what's happening in the universe. What's happening with me as one individual is what's happening with all of us collectively. Me as the individual, us collectively to the universe collectively. The universe collectively to the multiverse collectively, the multiverse to the creator collectively and individually. The cycle, the cyclical nature, we are all fractures, we are all independent, we are all variants, and all of those variants breed with other variants. The same thing with the plant life, same thing with everything. So all of that is creating new avenues with an individual soul, spirit, in the individual new body that is now a new DNA strand, because it is a mix and a blend of several DNA strands. And then the human genome, say on Earth, is the same. It's a mixture of a whole bunch of other, say, DNA strands that make up the human species. And all of those are variants of another grouping that keeps going back to source. So from one to the many, from the many to the all, from the all to the one, the alpha and the omega, the 3, 6, and the 9, all from one from all. Everything spins outward until infinity, and it also spins inward into oneness. And that creates the torus. That creates a closed system that is infinite in its expansion, but non-infinite in how far it can expand, but infinitely in that ecosystem can expand forever in an infinite way. So that is the creation. That is what's happening here. And the function of all of that is for all of the experiences with a controlled ecosystem of experiences that echo larger experiences and more variants. So it's unlimited. And you can blow your mind just thinking about how unlimited that is. Do you see? So as below, so above, as within, so without, on earth as in heaven. It's completely up to all of us. We are co-creators that are creating this by me creating my life, you creating your life, me experiencing my life, you experiencing your life, me experiencing you experiencing your life, you experiencing me experiencing my life, all of us collectively experiencing each other and collectively experiencing the human existence, country to country, city to city, town to town, nation to nation, world to world, galaxy to galaxy, universe to universe, God to God, creation to creation. As one, so too are the many. Do you see? So we are literally a fracture of the creator of the universe, and we literally are having this experience, and the creator is experiencing this experience through each one of us, taking the knowledge of all onto itself. I have the knowledge of myself. And if you're awake enough, you have the knowledge of many selves that you were. The creator remembers all of that, experiences all of that all at once. It's experiencing all of this. So vicariously through us, the creator is evolving. As we're evolving, so too is the creator evolving. Think about that for a minute. That'll blow your brain. Let's continue here.
Having made this God as his first production and second after himself, it seemed beautiful to him, since it was entirely full of the goodness of everything, and he loved it as the progeny of his own divinity. Then, so great and good was he, that he wanted there to be another to admire the one he had made from himself, and straightway he made mankind, imitator of his reason and attentiveness. God's will is itself perfect achievement, since willing and achievement are complete for him at one and the same moment of time. After he had made mankind ousiodes, and noticed that he could not take care of everything unless he was covered over with a material wrapping, God covered him with a bodily dwelling and commanded that all humans be like this, mingling and combining the two natures into one in their just proportions. Thus God shapes mankind from the nature of soul and of body, from the eternal and the mortal, in other words, so that the living being so shaped can prove adequate to both its beginnings, wondering at heavenly beings and worshiping them, tending earthly beings and governing them. Just now, in speaking about mortal things, I mean to speak not about water and earth, those two of the four elements that nature has made subject to humans, but about what humans make of those elements or in them: agriculture, pasturage, building, harbors, navigation, social intercourse, reciprocal exchange, the strongest bond among humans or between humanity and the parts of the world that are water and earth. Learning the arts and sciences and using them preserves this earthly part of the world. God willed it that the world would be incomplete without them. Necessity follows God's pleasure. Result attends upon his will. That anything agreed by God should become disagreeable to him is incredible, since he would have known long before that he would agree and that it was to be. But I notice, Asclepius, that mind's quick desire hastens you to learn how mankind can cherish heaven or the things in it, and tend to its honor. Listen then, Asclepius. Cherishing the God of heaven and all that heaven contains means but one thing: constant, assiduous service.
In a commercial.
Except for mankind alone, no living thing, neither divine nor mortal, has done this service. Heaven and heavenly beings take delight in wonderment, worship, praise, and service from humans. Rightly, the supreme divinity sent the chorus of muses down to meet mankind, lest the earthly world lack sweet melody and seem thereby less civilized. Instead, with songs set to music, humans praised and glorified him who alone is all and is Father of all. And thus, owing to their praise of heaven, earth has not been devoid of the charms of harmony. Some very small number of these humans, endowed with pure mind, have been allotted the honored duty of looking up to heaven. But those who lagged behind at a lower reach of understanding, under the body's bulk, and because theirs is a mingled twofold nature, have been appointed to care for the elements and these lower objects. Mankind is a living thing then, but none the lesser for being partly mortal. Indeed, for one purpose his composition seems perhaps fitter and abler, enriched by mortality. Had he not been made of both materials, he would not have been able to keep them both. So he was formed of both, to tend to earth and to cherish divinity as well. Asclepius, I want you to grasp the theory that follows, not only through thoughtful concentration, but also with an energetic attitude. The theory seems incredible to most, but holier minds should grasp it as sound and true. Now let me begin. The master of eternity is the first God, the world is second, mankind is third. God is maker of the world and all it contains, governing all things along with mankind, who governs what is composite. Taking responsibility for the whole of this, the proper concern of his attentiveness, mankind brings it about that he and the world are ornaments to one another, so that, on account of mankind's divine composition, it seems right to call him a well-ordered world.
See here again, everything that I was just saying, as below, so above, as within, so without. So here you see Hermes saying the same thing, that in describing to you how this functionality is working in a way that Greeks at the time would understand, right? That God created this place. Some of us are more in the flesh, in the 3D than others, and that doesn't diminish what we are, but it accentuates that, because we are the all. We are from beginning to salvation, from nothingness to the creator. We are from the flesh to the spirit. And this is what Hermes is explaining here, that in that creation, the creation has to be from the beginning back to source, the Alpha and the Omega, the beginning and the end. But the end is not the end. The end is the renewal. And that's your fire and ice. That's the fire burning the landscape, or the fire, the light giving life that is starting. The cyclical nature of nature itself. You have springtime. And in springtime, that is when everything is renewed, at least in the North American hemisphere. But that same thing happens in the Southern hemisphere. It's just a different month, but it's still spring for the planet, for that section. So you have that same thing, although it's considered a different, it's in a different month, but it's still springtime. Springtime happens at the opposite end of when autumn is happening somewhere else, or when you have winter somewhere else. So the Northern Hemisphere, Southern Hemisphere, you still have that renewal stage, even though it's not on the calendar on the same time period. But the way that the calendar is being run now, it's being run by England. That's where the 0 point is in Greenwich Mean. Greenwich is in a 0 point in England, because they are in charge of the planet and have been for a very long time. They consider themselves as the focal point. So all calendars revolve around them. Roman times from Italy, which is just south of England, the Venetians, as it were, prior to that, the creators, they think they are the controllers who believe they own this earth. So they dictate the time periods, but it doesn't change the nature. The nature is springtime is the renewal. So you have the burning of summer, the fire of the hot, and the burning, and all of the plants will have that burning look to them, where the leaves go yellow and orange and brown, and then they fall off, and everything falls off in autumn. That's why people call it fall, because the leaves fall. Everything dies then, and then you have that time period where there is the cold in the winter, and then you have the spring when the thaw happens, the renewal of life. It's the cyclical nature of the planet itself, Northern and Southern Hemisphere. That is the cyclical nature. That is the nature of nature. So the people that are bound by that, all that is plants, animals, humans, we have that same cyclical nature. The sentient beings, those who are self-aware, breed whenever they feel like that. So a human is month to month, where animals are springtime. Everything needs to breed at the same time, and then it grows, and then it dies, and then it renews. But humans, dolphins, whales, a few other primates then can breed intermittently. Humans can do it every month, right? The human female is fertile once a month, where you have other animals that do the same thing. So the cyclical nature can become sped up because of the nature of the self-awareness of the individual, and then that changes. So that changes who you are and how you can then gestate. But the gestation period is less for those who breed in the springtime than it is for those who can breed at any time. Then the gestation period is longer. However, then it still propagates. So there is changes. And as you move up in your spiritual awareness, then there is also another spiritual birth and rebirth that you go through as an individual. So you become more one, and you have less separation, masculine and feminine, and the energies become more one. So then there is a renewal and a rebirth that happens, but it happens with those two energies, the Kundalini, Kunda buffer energies in your body, the land of milk and honey, that those two oils, one being milk-like, one being honey-like, that blend together, that mix together. That's a masculine and feminine energy that weaves its way up Jacob's ladder, up the 33 vertebrae of your spinal column, the 33 years it took for Jesus to be crucified. And then that oil mixes and illuminates in the physicality, which illuminates your beingness to achieve a higher plane of existence and realization in your spirit. And then you move up from there. Once you part from the physical body, as you go into the fourth dimension, the fifth dimension, and the sixth dimension, the physicality, the physical body becomes less, and the density of your soul becomes more as you move into that. So as you do that and you move up, you will leave this physical form. In the next physical form, in the fourth dimension and the fifth dimension, you will have less of a physical density than we have currently. That will become less, but your density of your spirit, your immortal soul's density becomes more prevalent and becomes denser. That's why it's a higher density, fourth density, fifth, sixth, seventh, eighth. You become more in the realization of the immortal soul. Therefore, you become more present there. And then there's a different kind of death and renewal of the energy there, and the cyclical nature of that beingness that I can't get into right now on this platform, because it's going out to the entire world. But on an individual basis, if you guys want to talk to me individually, you have to contact me, and I can work with people individually, and I can give you far more information. Whatever you're ready for, I can give you that information. If you can ask the question, I can give you the answer to it. And then you can take from that and say, this man's crazy, I don't know, and move and find your own way. We encourage that. I am of the belief, like Socrates before me, that I cannot make you believe anything. The only thing that I hope to do is to get you to start thinking for yourself. So any information that I give you, or anyone else for that matter in this world gives you, they can't make you believe anything. The only thing they can do is get you to start asking questions and start looking for yourself, because that's the true enlightenment, is when you start asking questions, when you start looking for yourself. Peter, what's up, brother? So hi to anybody who's not saying hi, because I was told that Aaron Fowler was here. I don't know if you still are, Aaron. If you are, welcome, brother. Reese is saying hi to Rebecca. Hi, Rebecca. If you're in the audience and you haven't said hello to me and it doesn't come into the chat, I don't know that you're here. I just see numbers. So those of you who are here and have tuned in, and around the world, if you're on the MP3 broadcast, wherever you are on the planet listening to this, if you're listening to me live, or if you're listening to me after I've been live, I can't talk to you individually, because right now I'm not broadcasting on a platform to where the MP3 broadcast, where you can contact me individually, but live. But you can contact me individually, and I can work with people individually to help you to answer any questions that you have So there will be, in fact, here in coming up in September, I don't have the exact dates or the place yet, but I will be at a specific location here in New South Wales for you guys to come and ask me questions and get these answers in live. And it is going to be here in New South Wales. I think approximately 30 or 40 miles from where I'm sitting now, but don't quote me. I'll have that information when I do. But I do know that I will have a booth there set up to where I will be able to talk to people. So in one-on-one, if you're in this area of Australia, you'll be able to go to a certain place when I get that information. I don't remember it offhand. I will have that information for you next week, hopefully, the date and place and time that you guys will be able to go there, and you'll be able to then ask me individual questions if you cannot get a hold of me or you prefer to be in person to ask questions that I can answer for you. Because like I said, when I'm on a platform like this, I can only answer the average information that the average of this earth can withstand. But individually, I can tell you far more. The smaller the group, the more information that I can give you to answer your questions. And there will be some questions that I will tell you that I can't answer those for you because of free will. There are some informations that you have to discover on your own. And because of that, it kind of frustrates people a little bit. But I'm one of the few honest people that will tell you that information. I will say to you, this is an information that you have to actually figure out on your own. However, I can give you basic information. Most people that are psychics or channels will skirt that and not tell you that. They'll just give you the average for the room and not tell you that there's more information that you personally could get, but they couldn't tell you unless you're one-on-one. So it's rare that you hear somebody like me saying this to you, but I'm one of those people that will say that to you, that individually I can give you more information, but in the setting that we're in currently, I can only give you the average of what's here. So if you want to talk to me one-on-one, you'll get far more information. And anyone who's ever worked with me, you know the answer to that, right? So Peter says the Gregorian calendar, yeah, when they changed everything, the Gregorian calendar was introduced in 1582, right, by Pope Gregory. So that's when they changed things from the 13-month calendar to the 12-month calendar, right? So they got away from the lunar calendar and got to the solar calendar. And they thought it would be better because what? They have you chasing your tail and not looking at a spiritual thing. So it also made things more complicated. You don't know what day of the week it is, because when you have 13-month, equal 28-day months, 13 months based on the lunar calendar, the first of every single month is always on a Monday. The last day of every single month, the 28th day, is always on a Sunday. So it's very easy to figure out what day it is. And it's very easy to figure out what the date is. If you know what day it is, you know that it's one of 4 dates. If you know what date it is, you know it's one of the same day. So if it's day 1 or day 28, you know that is Monday is day 1 and the 28th is a Sunday. That's just the way it worked. But they get you all messed up to where when you put you on this calendar that we're on now, you have no idea. And you have to look at every calendar to figure out what the day is and what the date is, because it only reoccurs, I think it's once every 7 years or something like that, where they reoccur. So the cycle is so messed up that they get you confused and they keep you confused, right? Okay, so let's continue. So the underlying factor here is that we in this place are a fracture of the Creator, and the Creator has created this place to experience all of these things. So we're all having these experiences from nothingness to the Creator and everything in between. And the Creator is also having the exact same experience, and we're sharing these experiences with each other. So you guys are all experiencing me as I'm talking to you now, and as you interact with me, I'm experiencing you, and we're changing ourselves, right? Thank you, Brooke. My wife was listening in. The 21st of September, Mystic Moon Market, Central Coast Leagues Club. I will be there in person on that date, 21st of September. I'll be there in person for those of you who wish to attend. If you're anywhere in New South Wales or within 100 miles and you can make it to there, that is where I will be. I will be at a booth there, and I will be answering questions. I will be guiding people and helping people with information. And if you want to come there and ask me questions, you're going to get far better answers than unless you contact me in the meantime and speak to me in a personal one-on-one setting. Otherwise, you guys can come see me there. That's up on the screen. You guys can come see me there and ask me any questions, and I will give you true answers for you of what you're ready for instead of what the average is ready for, unless I'm doing it in a setting of a group setting, and then I can individually give you as much as they can also hear. So that's the only constraints that we have in this entire universe is the free will. So that we actually have to abide by those rules. So I can only give you what you're ready for, and I can only give the world what it's ready for. But I can push that as far as I can. But however, individually, I can give you more information. So come and check us out. I'll be there the 21st of September. Mystic, as I'm reading it there, Mystic Moon Market, Central Coast Leagues Club. Look that up. It's in New South Wales, Australia, on the 21st of September. Okay, let's continue.
Though cosmos in Greek would be better. Mankind knows himself and knows the world. Thus it follows that he is mindful of what his role is and of what is useful to him. Also that he recognizes what interests he should serve, giving greatest thanks and praise to God and honoring his image, but not ignoring that he too is the second image of God, who has two images, world and mankind. Whence, though mankind is an integral construction, it happens that in the part that makes him divine, he seems able to rise up to heaven, as if from higher elements, soul and consciousness, spirit and reason.
If you haven't exercised in years, you have to start small with my beginner-friendly Tai Chi class.
But in his material part, consisting of fire and earth, water and air, he remains fixed on the ground, a mortal, lest he disregard all the terms of his charge as void and empty. Thus humankind is divine in one part, in another part mortal, residing in a body. For him, for mankind that is, and for the sum of his parts, the ultimate standard is reverence, from which goodness follows. Goodness is deemed perfect only when fortified by the virtue of disdain, which repels desire for every alien thing. Any earthly possessions owned out of bodily desire are all alien to every part of his divine kinship. To name such things possessions is correct, because they do not come to be with us, but come to be possessed by us later on. Wherefore we call them by the name possessions. Everything of this kind, then, is alien to mankind, even the body, and we should despise both the things we yearn for and the source within us of the vice of yearning. The aim of the argument leads me to think that mankind was bound to be human only to this extent, that by contemplating divinity he should scorn and despise that mortal part joined to him by the need to preserve the lower world. Now, in order for mankind in both his parts to have all that he can, note that he was formed with a quaternary of elements in either part, with pairs of hands and feet and other bodily members to serve the lower or earthly world, and with those four faculties of thought, consciousness, memory, and foresight, by means of which he knows all things divine and looks up to them. Hence, searching warily, mankind hunts in things for variations, qualities, effects, and quantities. And yet, because the heavy and excessive vice of body slows him down, he cannot rightly discern the true causes of their nature. Therefore, given that mankind was made and shaped in this way, and that the supreme God appointed him to such duty and service, if he observes the worldly order in an orderly way, if he adores God faithfully, complying duly and worthily with God's will in both its aspects, with what prize do you believe such a being should be presented? Seeing that the world is God's work, one who attentively preserves and enriches its beauty, conjoins his own work with God's will, when, lending his body in daily work and care, he arranges the scene formed by God's divine intention. Is it not the prize our parents had, the one we wish, in most faithful prayer, may be presented to us as well if it be agreeable to divine fidelity? The prize, that is, of discharge and release from worldly custody, of loosing the bonds of mortality, so that God may restore us, pure and holy, to the nature of our higher part, to the divine? What you say is right and true, Trismegistus. Yes, this is the payment for those who live faithfully under God, who live attentively with the world. For the unfaithful it goes differently. Return to heaven is denied them, and a vile migration unworthy of a holy soul puts them in other bodies.
Right? So here again, if you're living in the flesh, you stay in the flesh. If you're living in the spirit, then you move closer to the source. So here is that description, once again, of if you eat of the flesh, eat of the tree of life, and you're living in the flesh, and you're living in this place, and you believe this is reality, you will then be reborn into another body, and this is where you will stay. This is your purgatory. This becomes your hell. You will continue repeating over and over, and you will not graduate until you've decided to become in service to others, and then you start moving up in that way, away from the flesh into the spirit, and then eventually you will leave this body in this reality, and you will go to a different body in a different reality that is above this one, that is not third dimension, that is fourth dimension, and then fifth dimension, and then sixth dimension. The physical body will change, and it will become less dense as your spiritual body becomes more dense, and you become more closer to the Creator. So this is literally the description of that in a very pointed way for those Greeks at the time to understand exactly what's going on. But it is the exact same description. Let's continue. Wait, let me put this back into full screen over here. Let's continue.
As the pattern of your discourse has developed, Trismegistus, it seems that souls run a great risk in this earthly life regarding hope of eternity to come. Of course. But some find this incredible, others fictitious, others laughable, perhaps. For in this bodily life, the pleasure one takes from possessions is a delight, but this delight, as they say, is a noose round the soul's neck that keeps mankind tied to the part that makes him mortal. Nor does the malice that begrudges immortality let him acknowledge the part of divinity in him. Speaking as a prophet, I will tell you that after us will remain none of that simple regard for philosophy found only in the continuing reflection and holy reverence by which one must recognize divinity. The many make philosophy obscure in the multiplicity of their reasoning. What is it that the many do to make philosophy incomprehensible? How do they obscure it in the multiplicity of their reasoning? In this way, Asclepius, by combining it through ingenious argument with various branches of study that are not comprehensible, arithmetica and music and geometry. Pure philosophy that depends only on reverence for God should attend to these other matters only to wonder at the recurrence of the stars, how their measure stays constant in prescribed stations and in the orbit of their turning. It should learn the dimensions, qualities, and quantities of the land, the depths of the sea, the power of fire, and the nature and effects of all such things in order to commend, worship, and wonder at the skill and mind of God.
See here again, like I was describing early on, here is Hermes describing the same dichotomy, that those powers that should not be organizing the mind of the people who would be tend to and possibly tend to find things in the spiritual to distract them into the physical. by all means necessary, including everything that you just heard, by mathematics, arithmetic, looking at the stars, looking at the trees, looking at everything. It's not a bad thing to figure out the molecules of everything. It's not a bad thing for those people to find those things and look to the stars, look at the biology of things, because we need to know those things. But if that's all you focus on and you never focus on anything else in the larger picture of things, then you'll never learn anything and you'll never move away from there. That's why it's important to have this ecosystem. I always say that people that are very linear minded are perfect scientists. Because they're so linear minded, they have to be meticulous in everything that they do. There's nothing wrong with that. It's actually a very beautiful thing for people to do, because they are capable and need to be step by step, and they need to see everything, and they need to go from beginning to end with everything. And those are the people who are the reason that we have all of the studies of all of the universe, of everything, because people who are linear minded have the ability and the patience and the focus to be able to meticulously study something. If not for those people, we would know nothing. We would know nothing. We would know half, maybe less than half of what we know about the universe and about plants and about physiology and about the mind and about the genetics and all of that, because haphazardly moving from one place to another creates and causes mistakes, causes missteps, causes problems. Do you see? So if you're not linear minded, then we would miss out on half of the universe. So it's very, very important for those people who are linear minded to be alive and doing what it is that they're doing to keep things on track, to be meticulous, to study these things. However, with those, if everyone was that way, nobody would be spiritual and we'd only be living in the physical. So I don't fault anyone for being that way, and no one should, because those people who choose to be in the physical are looking in the physical, and they're wringing those things out, and they're making it possible for things to advance in a physical way that helps things in a non-physical way. There's that balance where you have to have those things. So if a person is non-spiritual and they don't believe in any of that, and they're looking in the physical for the answers, that's great, because they're going to allow and assist people that are in the non-physical plane to do their job. People that are in the non-physical can't do those things and be in the physical and be so meticulous with that and have that. So you have to have that balance, that feng shui. You have to have that yin yang to better everything. So everything helps the all. So there's nothing wrong with that. However, if a person never chooses, and that's why it takes 7 to 10 lifetimes for you to go from becoming self-aware to graduation, because all of us go through those motions in whatever order we choose to do them in. We go through those 7 to 10 lifetimes. So some people might do the spiritual part first, or they might go back and forth as they move. It just depends on the individual where they want to do it. So you can never assume that because one person that you're talking to doesn't believe in anything spiritual, that they're a young soul. They could be a very old soul, and they could be doing this last. So you can never assume anything about anyone. So when you see somebody and you go, oh, that one's asleep, doesn't necessarily mean that one could be Jesus reincarnated and you're unaware of it. That one could be Lao Tzu reincarnated and you're unaware of it. But they're not playing that part in this lifetime. They're playing the part of a meticulous, living in the flesh person. Because of this ecosystem, they could have been doing it backwards. And the fact that it's very necessary for people to do that, because if everybody learned the exact same way, there would only be so many variances of that, and then it would end. And then there would be no new variances for the new people to come through. There'd be very slight. The fact that everything seems like it's chaos is allowed and encouraged by the creator, because all of that creates more variances and more experiences and all of that. So all of this is perfect, and it's a perfect dance that's creating more and more and more and more and more experiences and variances. So it's very important. So you can never assume that. You can never assume that somebody is that. If you have the eyes to see, then you can look at a soul, and even when you see someone that is a very grounded, linear-minded person, you could still, if you have the eyes to see, you will go, that's a very old soul inside there. That's not a brand new soul. And then sometimes you see people that are very enlightened and they're very spiritual, and you look at them and go, wow, that person is completely very, very awake, but on life 1 or 2. And you can see that sometimes. Very young soul, but very awake, and because they've decided to do that part first. So but you have to have that ability to see that. If you don't have those abilities to sense that and to see that about a person, then you would not know the answer to that. So you can't judge anyone. That's where you hear that, you don't judge a book by its cover. You can't judge a book by its cover because you don't know. Just because that person seems to be self-serving in this lifetime doesn't mean that they always have been, right? So you have to realize that. That's why when you hear different people speak and they'll say, when you look at someone, see the creator in their eyes, realize that they're the creator. When you look in the mirror, realize that you're seeing the creator in your reflection. Because if you do that, then you're going to be nicer to people and less judgmental, because to be judgmental is to be third dimension, is to be ego. So judging someone by looking at them is not something that we should be doing. Allow people to be where they are. The only people who don't allow people to be who they are the ones who are truly living in the flesh, living in the self-serving flesh, and then they want to control everybody because they have to keep the narrative in a certain place so that they can stay in charge and stay in power. So they need that power, they need that glory, they need that money, they need that fame. They have to have that. So they need everything to stay the same way that it is, the status quo, so that they can stay where they are. And they have to convince you that there is nothing else besides this, so that you won't look at them and see them that they're not in charge. You'll believe that they are in charge. Let's continue.
Knowing music is nothing more than being versed in the correct sequence of all things together as allotted by divine reason. By divine song, this sequencing or marshalling of each particular thing into a single whole through reason's craftwork produces a certain concord, very sweet and very true.
Imagine being able to build an app with your name on it, just by thinking about it. Meet Base 44.
Accordingly, the people who will come after us, deceived by the ingenuity of sophists, will be estranged from the true, pure, and holy philosophy. To adore the Godhead with simple mind and soul, and to honor his works, also to give thanks to God's will, which alone is completely filled with good. This is a philosophy unprofaned by relentlessly curious thinking. And this is our account of these topics. From this point, let us begin the treatment of spirit and related matters. There was God and Huli, which we take as the Greek for matter, and attending matter was spirit, or rather spirit was in matter, but it was not in matter as it was in God, nor as the things from which the world came were in God. Because these things had not come to be, they were not as yet, but by then they already were in that from which they had their coming to be. Not only of those that have not yet come to be, but also of those that lack the fertility for breeding, so that nothing can come to be from them, is it said that they do not produce being. Therefore, things can breed that have in them a nature capable of breeding. Something can come to be from them, even though they have come to be from themselves, for there is no doubt that the things from which all come to be can easily come to be from those that have come to be from themselves. The everlasting God, God eternal, neither can nor could have come to be. That which is, which was, which always will be. This is the nature of God, then, which is wholly from itself. But Hule, or the nature of matter and spirit, though from the beginning they seem not to have come to be, nonetheless possess in themselves the power and nature of coming to be and procreating. For the beginning of fertility is in the quality of nature, which possesses in itself the power and the material for conceiving and giving birth. Nature, therefore, can breed alone without conceiving by another. By contrast, things that have the power to conceive only by coupling with natures outside themselves must be divided in such a way that the place of the world along with its contents are seen not to have come to be, which place in any event has in itself the power of the whole of nature. Place, I call that, in which all things are, for none of them could have been, lacking a place to keep them all. A place must be provided for everything that is to be. The fact is that if things were nowhere, one could not distinguish their qualities, quantities, positions, or effects. Therefore, although matter did not come to be, it nonetheless has in itself the natures of all things, inasmuch as it furnishes them most fertile wombs for conceiving. The whole of matter's quality, then, is to be creative, even though it was not created. Just as there is a fertile quality in the nature of matter, so also is the same matter equally fertile in malice. Thus, Asclepius and Hammon, I have not said what the many say. Was God not able to put an end to evil and banish it from nature? One need not respond to them at all, but for your sake I shall pursue this question as well, since I have opened it.
See, before he does that, it's the balance, right? So I'm sure that this is exactly where Hermes will go with this. It's the balance. So all of that is perfect. It's a perfect ecosystem because it is the balance. So all of that was created on purpose because it needed to be. This is what I was getting to a second ago. All of that was created that way because it was needed to be that way for everything to be perfect. So it's needed to be that way so that this place can be the perfect ecosystem that it is. Most people freak out about that and they don't want to know that this is a perfect ecosystem. That good versus evil is something that, why is it that evil can't be eradicated from the universe? We have to stop it. We have to kill it. We have to get rid of it. It's serving its purpose. This is the perfect ecosystem. So evil is not supposed to be defeated ultimately. It is supposed to be pushed back. It is supposed to be a balance. So therefore, that is what happens. We'll see what Hermes rings out with this, but this is the way the universe works. So people think there's a war going on between good and evil, and good has to destroy evil, and evil's trying to destroy good. And then you have evil saying, no, we're just as strong as God, and that the devil is just as strong as God. That's untrue. But in this place, in third dimension, evil has just as much sway as good does because it's supposed to. Because in this place, where the place of the baby soul, the place where you're very firstly brand new, self-aware, aware that I am something, I think, therefore I am. This is the very first place that you are aware. So when you are born and you come out of the womb, that is the first time you take a breath, you realize that you are alive in this place. And then you, from there, try to figure this place out and move up from there. As below, so above. As within, so without. So this place emulates the earth, and you physically emulates what is going on in the universe. You physically, through birth, are emulating the life and the death cycle that is this place. So in this place, you have self-serving and non-self-serving people. So therefore, you have to have that. You can't have light without darkness. You can't have up without down. You can't have left without right. So you can't have good without evil. You can't have life without death. You can't have love without hate. So you have to have that. So evil has to be 100%. Let's see what how Hermes answered this question. Right? Wait a minute. Let me go back over here in full screen. And let's answer this question, right? Let's see what Hermes says.
And I will give you an answer. Now these people say that God should have freed the world of every kind of evil. Yet evil is so much in the world that it seems almost to be an organ of the world. Acting as reasonably as possible, the supreme God took care to provide against evil when he deigned to endow human minds with consciousness, learning, and understanding. For it is these gifts alone by which we surpass other living things that enable us to avoid the tricks, snares, and vices of evil.
Self-awareness. Being self-aware gives you the ability to choose be it whether you want to be self-serving or being service to others. That is the difference. So the difference is self-awareness. We are aware of the self. We are not just instinctive. Without living just in the instinctive, we have thought. Therefore, this is why the Greek said, I think, therefore I am. We have self-awareness. Self-awareness comes out of personality, comes out of thought. So we think, therefore I am. Because I can think, I can reason, and I can see, and I can, as you see on the screen, avoid the tricks, snares, and vices of evil, because I have that ability. I have the ability of reason because I think, because I can think. And that's what they're trying to take away from you, trying to keep you from thinking for yourself. And they discourage you from thinking for yourself by punishing you, like Fiona earlier in the show talking about being in Facebook jail. She said something that was outside of the box, something that was in the minds of the people on Facebook, something they did not want her to say. In the UK, currently, you can go to jail because of a thought. You can go to jail because you said something that now they have deemed to be offensive to other people. So you have to be careful what you say in certain countries because you don't have that right anymore. You don't have free will. You don't have free thinking. You don't have free speech in all facets of the earth. And if you think you do, look at your laws and find out what you can and can't get away with saying. Because if you say it out loud, people will come and arrest you and take you away. And that's what they're trying to put in every country right now. Because the internet has made things so small in this world, they made the world so small that I am talking right now, and I'm in Australia, and you're here wherever you are on the planet, you're hearing me. And I was in America before that. You can hear me and all over this planet. So therefore, they have to control what I say in some way if I start saying things that is going against their narrative. Do you see? So they'll stifle me in some way. They won't give me a job. I've always said, why is it that archaeologists go and they all basically come up with the same knowledge? And I don't believe that same knowledge is the same that they're coming up with. I think they're leaving stuff out. Other people said the same thing, and that causes people to then look on their own, but you won't get a grant from a college because that college doesn't want you to tell people that information. The people who pay the bills for that college don't want that information being out there to the public. So what is it and why? Why are they stifling that information, and what is it that they're stifling? So when you look into that, you realize things like the Dead Sea Scrolls. So here we have a bunch of scrolls. I just posted a video about that in the chat for the Orion Rising chat, formerly known as the Law of One chat. I just posted a video in there of that. I didn't make the video. It was a video that someone else made. But the message in the video was sound that they have been controlling the narrative. The Constantine at the Council of Nicaea, in whatever that year was, 538 or 536, somewhere in that time period, got together and pulled in people from all over the world, and they created a religion, an Orthodox religion out of Christianity, and they focused it the way they wanted it focused. And they took out any information from any of the books that didn't give the narrative that they wanted. And they ordered all of that destroyed. And there was a group of people, a sect within that religion, the Essenes, who stole that information away and hid it. And the Roman Catholic Church of Constantine at the time, the Christian church of the time, hunted them down and killed them all to eradicate that memory. They thought that they had done it. And then 1600 years later, in 1948, a couple of kids tending their father's sheep in the Dead Sea area, throwing rocks in caves, heard pottery break and went into the cave and found scrolls and found manuscripts and didn't know what they were, and took them and gave them to their father. And their father burned some of them as firewood before he realized that they actually had writings on them. And then now we have the Dead Sea Scrolls, and we don't know how many of them were collected and kept away from society by the evil empire, the evil people, the powers that should not be. But we do know that some 180 some odd scrolls exist for us to be able to read. And many of them are very important. And all of them have a knowledge that seems to be the same knowledge in them, told slightly different by slightly different individuals, telling you the accounts of certain knowledge that we're finding was and is still all over the world in all of these so-called religions, these philosophical and spiritual ways of thinking that have been turned into orthodox religions, that none of the people who were giving the message wanted their knowledge to be a religion. They wanted their knowledge to be a way of life. Hence the Tao Te Ching, the book of the way. Okay. None of these people said, follow me as a religion. It was follow my way. This knowledge is the knowledge that you seek. This knowledge is the knowledge that you need. Okay. So all of these people who were living in the flesh decided to take this knowledge and eradicate some of it in history. But we have the ability, getting back on point, we have the ability, because of our thought, for us to think for ourselves and ask questions. But you need to be careful because they're still trying to stifle. In the old times, they would just murder you. It's harder for them to just murder people now. And so it's easier for them to control the narrative by stifling you and slowing down what you can do to tell people. So on the internet, which has now become this highway of knowledge that is instantaneous around the world, they will banish you from that kingdom for a time. And if you keep continuing to do what they tell you not to do, then they will eradicate you and they will delete you and delete all of your knowledge so that people can no longer find it. They're doing the same thing. Nothing has changed. The platform has changed. Back before, it was the teaching by humans and their writing. So they killed all the humans and burned all the writings. Now it's the spoken word on the internet. So they delete you off the internet. It's the same thing. It's the same thing happening in a new way. That's all that it is. So you need to realize that and understand that. So you have to be careful the way you word things, because it's possible, and depending on the country that you're in, some countries will kill you for thinking the wrong thing. Some countries will just ban you from their internet, and other places will imprison you for saying something that they have now deemed offensive. Let's continue.
He that avoids them on sight before they entangle him, that person has been fortified by divine understanding and foresight. For the foundation of learning resides in the highest good. Spirit supplies and invigorates all things in the world. Like an instrument or a mechanism, it is subject to the will of the supreme God. For now, let this be our understanding of these issues. Understood by mind alone, the God called Supreme is ruler and governor of that sensible God who encloses within him all place, all the substance of things, all the matter of things that produce and procreate, all that there is whatsoever and however much there is. But Spirit stirs and governs all the forms in the world, each according to the nature allotted it by God.
Okay, I think we're going to stop there. And we'll call it for this week at the 3 hour and 3 minute mark. We'll end it there, and we will come back and pick up next week. Let me put myself back up on camera right here. Okay. So I'm glad to be back. Sorry that I was gone for a month. Couldn't be avoided. I had to move 7,000 miles away from where I was to be with my wife. Like I said, we both had our parents, our mother, pass, and we had to get through that, settle in here in our house in New South Wales, in Australia, the east coast of Australia. Like I said, I'm glad to be back. Sorry that I was gone for the time. I will be back next week and continue this. Again, let me put up on the screen, if you're interested, the 21st of September, Mystic Moon Market, Central Coast Leagues Club. I will be there in person if you guys want to come and hear me speak or ask me questions. Otherwise, you can contact me personally. I do work with people individually, and I will give you information that I can't give you on the air like here, but I'm pushing the boundaries of everything that I can give to the world at this place on this internet with what I can and can't say. I do push as far as I can. However, in the universe, the way the universe works is if I try to say something that is illegal because I'm pressing against the free will of the planet, they will stop me. They've done that. They do that to everybody. I think it's hilarious when you see somebody live and they go to say something and then they tell you, I'm sorry, I can't give that information to you because it's beyond the capacity for rational thought at this time. That does happen a bit with people. Okay, guys, I love you guys. I'm glad to be back. I will be every week. Let me put the banner back up here, right? I will be broadcasting from Australia. Let's put this up on the screen, put myself out of full screen here. Right? It's in the background. I didn't put it in the foreground. I apologize. I put that in the background. Put it in the foreground, right? I will be broadcasting live to the world from Australia going forward. Let me fix this and put it back to where it was here and put myself on full screen. I love you guys. This has been Orion Rising. I am your host, Leonard O'Neill. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, or good morrow, depending on where in the world you are tuning in the show. I will see you guys next week. I love you guys. Have a great weekend. Have a great new moon, black moon. Make sure that you do a ritual if you're into that. If you're not, then take your God with you when you go. Check your ego at the door. I love you guys. I'll see you guys next week.